black-haired man in a green hoodie sprints frantically down a wooded path, driven by unseen urgency. He gasps for air, thinking how he couldn't be late for such an important day. From ahead, a woman with a ponytail and a man in armor spot him, the woman noting his arrival. The armored man, C-rank guarder Lim Duan, tuts about a newbie being late, but the C-rank fighter, Kim Jimin, reminds him he was always the one who was late. Now identified as D-rank support Shin Junso, the latecomer arrives and bows, sincerely apologizing. Lim Duan laughs it off as a joke, while Kim Jimin tells him 2 others are already inside, and Junso readily agrees to head in. Despite the warm welcome, Shin Junseo's face falls as he thinks to himself that things are really bad. Before a glowing dungeon portal, he reflects that this is his first ever raid, 3 months after joining the guild. The trio turns and walks together into the shimmering blue light of the dungeon. Inside the crystalline cave, Shin Junso hardens his expression, determined to get it together for his first support raid. He clenches his fist amidst swirling blue energy, resolute that he must prove he's useful. A man in a black coat and face mask approaches Shin Junseo from the side. The man, identified as B-rank assassin Moon Do-yoon, asks if this is Junso's first dungeon raid. Shin Junseo confirms it's his first time as a support, prompting Moon Do-yoon to offer a bit of an explanation. Using a chibi diagram, Do-yoon explains that supports can't fight and will get hurt if they get too close to the battle. Another chibi example shows the support being attacked from behind, demonstrating his point. Maintaining proper distance is critical. Moon Do-yoon instructs Shin Junseo that, as a maker, his only job is to stay back and create a dagger on command. Junseo anxiously asks if that's all, but Do-yoon states he's the only one who needs extra weapons anyway. A new man in a mage's robe, C-rank hunter Lee Hyunwoo, announces he senses mana, warning that a monster is here. The full party of 5 assembles for battle, with Lim Duan at the front ordering them into formation. Moon Do-yoon asks for a report, and Lee Hyunwoo confirms 3 small mana signatures and 1 large one, big enough to be a boss. Finding it strange for a boss to be out of its area, Do-yoon decides he will take the boss while the others handle the rest. Do-yoon asks how long it will take to make a dagger, and a startled Junseo replies about 20 seconds, though it will only last a minute. With a confident smirk, Do-yoon tells him that's good, and orders him to start making them now. 3 blue crystal lizards emerge, identified as monsters that grow and change based on the mana stones they consume. Lim Duan and Kim Jimin ready themselves, with Duan announcing he'll start and Jimin eagerly agreeing. Lim Duan's eyes glow with intense power as he prepares to engage the monsters. He raises his massive shield, bracing for impact as purple energy envelops him. A powerful shockwave of purple energy erupts from his shield, blasting the monsters backward. As the monsters are stunned, Kim Jimin leaps into the fray with blinding speed. She brings her glowing fist down in a powerful strike against one of the crystal lizards. The impact creates a brilliant flash of light, shattering the monster's defenses. She fluidly flips backward, dodging the snapping jaws of the wounded lizard. Landing perfectly, she leaves behind the decapitated body of the crystal lizard. The remaining monsters immediately resume their aggressive assault on the party. Kim Jimin realizes they heal faster than anticipated and yells a warning that 2 are charging the back line. Lim Duan shouts in surprise as Lee Hyunwoo, preparing a spell behind him, yells that his magic is almost ready. With a furious cry, Lee Hyunwoo unleashes a torrent of fiery magic projectiles. A massive fiery explosion engulfs the area, incinerating the charging monsters. Lee Hyunwoo and Lim Duan share a victorious fist bump, agreeing to go help the others. Shin Junseo watches the guild's incredible teamwork in awe, until a voice yells his name, asking for the weapons. Realizing this is no time to be distracted, he forces himself to concentrate on his task. He channels his mana, using his rank F making skill to forge an object from pure energy. Holding the newly created dagger, he yells, "Here!" and throws it across the cavern. Moon Do-yoon leaps and expertly catches the dagger in mid-air. He activates his shadow weapon skill, preparing to transform the dagger with his own mana. In a flash, the weapon is enveloped in dark energy, transforming into a shadow dagger. Wielding his new shadowy weapon, Moon Do-yoon blurs into motion, lunging directly at the boss monster. The shadow-infused blade strikes true, and the boss monster's head shatters into pieces. Moon Do-yoon stands calmly over the defeated monster, his silhouette marking a swift and decisive victory. Moon Do-yoon calmly watches as the blue, fiery mana on his shadow dagger dissipates. Moon Do-yoon asks if anyone is hurt, and from the foreground, Kim Jimin confirms that she's fine. A smiling Shin Junseo reflects that the guild is even greater than he imagined, with each member being amazing. He continues his thought, watching his guildmates interact, noting their teamwork is flawless and that they will become a top guild. His optimism fades as he looks at his own hand, thinking how he compares to them. He laments that he only made one dagger, got distracted, and was of no real help. Clenching his fist, he wonders if he deserves to be with them, but a voice praises him for a good job. Moon Do-yoon, having pulled down his mask, surprises Junseo by asking if he's hurt. Junseo stammers a denial, thanking Do-yoon but laughing nervously as he says he wasn't helpful. Moon Do-yoon casually dismisses his worries, explaining that Junseo's skill will save him a lot of money. Do-yoon explains that his own weapon-consuming skill makes even the cheapest weapons too expensive for him to afford. He concludes that's why he needed a maker, as his skill just needs a weapon with mana in it to activate. With his mask off, Moon Do-yoon gives a warm and reassuring smile. Do-yoon puts a hand on his shoulder, telling him not to ditch them, and a newly confident Junseo promises to do his best. As Lim Do-won and Moon Do-yoon decide to collect the loot, the cave suddenly shakes violently, and Do-yoon grabs Junseo. Kim Jimin panics about an earthquake, while Lee Han-woo worries that killing the boss caused the cave to collapse. Shin Junseo stares upward in shock and confusion. He screams a warning that the wall is collapsing. Lee Hyun-woo observes the collapsing wall with a thoughtful expression. He speculates that it's a pathway that seems to be connected to another place. Moon Do-yoon ponders the word pathway, while someone off-screen exclaims in excitement about a secret path. With stars in his eyes, Lim Do-won imagines a path to secret treasure and eagerly shouts for them to go. Kim Jimin enthusiastically agrees, her eyes also sparkling, as a tiny Lee Hyun-woo protests that they can't just rush inside. Moon Do-yoon asks Lee Hyun-woo if he can detect anything, but Hyun-woo confirms he cannot. Deciding it's fine to proceed quickly, Moon Do-yoon gives the go-ahead, prompting Lim Do-won to cheer for the guildmaster's permission. With a sigh, Lee Hyun-woo reluctantly agrees to go along with the plan. Moon Do-yoon tells Junseo it's time to go, and a startled Junseo stammers his agreement. The party charges ahead into the new passage, while Junseo and Do-yoon watch from behind. An immense, glowing-eyed crystal creature awakens within the dark passage ahead. In a jarring shift, Shin Junseo is shown running for his life, panicking about how everything went so wrong. He screams in terror, realizing everyone else is dead. A horrific flashback shows his guildmates impaled by crystals as he thinks the monster was too strong for a D-rank dungeon and couldn't be detected by magic. Gasping in fear, Shin Junseo clutches his chest. He turns to see the massive crystal monster has caught up to him. The monster towers over him, ready to deliver a crushing blow. With a devastating crash, he is slammed into the hard ground. Bleeding and trembling, he struggles to his knees, determined to get up. Refusing to die, he summons a magic circle in his hand as the monster looms over him. With a desperate scream, he lunges forward, clutching a newly created dagger. He throws the dagger with all his might, sending it flying like a brilliant beam of light. The dagger strikes the crystal monster squarely in its face. The massive beast barely flinches, the small dagger embedded uselessly in its crystalline hide. The monster retaliates with a powerful smash, shattering the ground around Junseo. Thrown backward by the force, he sighs in defeat as he plummets into water. He sinks helplessly into the dark, silent depths. Bloody and broken, he resigns himself to his fate as he drifts downward. He recalls seeing his guildmates walking together, lamenting that he finally found a place that needed him, only to abandon them. Remembering their faces, he thinks that someone else would have been more helpful in his place. He closes his eyes, wishing he had never become an awakened being. His eyes snap open in watery, tear-filled shock, as if waking from a nightmare. A system window welcomes player Shin Junseo, his own shocked face reflected on its blue surface. The system offers him a new reward and asks if he would like to check it. Utterly bewildered while still underwater, Shin Junseo questions the words player and reward. He gasps, desperately, a torrent of air bubbles escaping, as he struggles against drowning. Unsure of what's happening, he grits his teeth with sudden resolve. As he sinks into the abyss, he reaches upward toward a glowing light, a final act of defiance. With a surge of determination, his hand presses yes on the system prompt, accepting his fate. Enveloped in a fiery blue aura, he walks forward on a path made of glowing swords. He now stands face to face with the immense crystal monster that killed him. A system message declares that as weapon maker Shin Junseo, he will inherit the experiences of his previous life. The colossal crystal monster lunges, preparing to attack him. Countless brilliant white swords materialize in the dark space around him. The blades rain down from every direction, piercing the monster's crystalline body. The monster is completely shattered by the overwhelming magical assault. Clutching his head in pain and confusion, Junseo feels unknown memories flooding his mind. A bead of sweat drips down his face as a confident smirk forms, having processed the new information. The crystal monster begins to rapidly regenerate before his eyes. The creature's crystalline fist clenches, reforming its weapon. Its shattered head reconstitutes itself from countless razor-sharp shards. He stands calmly on the monster's massive, reforming hand. He coolly notes the golem-type monster's formidable durability, realizing his attack did no lasting damage. He grits his teeth with a pained grunt as he endures the strain of his new memories. The golem fires a blinding blast of energy directly at him. Drawing on his new memories, he prepares his strategy, knowing the golem's tactics remain the same. As the monster lets out a deafening roar, his memory confirms that golem types have no specific weak points. He activates his skill, Grid World, planning to attack it from multiple angles simultaneously. As his skill takes effect, he recalls its function, materializing an equidistant grid with himself at the center. He stands before the monster, now trapped within a three-dimensional grid of glowing swords. With a determined look and a clenched fist, he prepares to unleash the full power of his new ability. The swords converge from all sides, striking the golem in a coordinated, inescapable assault. The monster is utterly annihilated, its crystalline body exploding into countless fragments. Standing over the remains, he breathes a sigh of relief. He realizes his Grid World skill is far more than an auxiliary tool. It's a powerful attack skill. Checking the system window, he finds he can't access any information on the dungeon or the monster. A strange, swirling orb of purple energy emerges from the monster's core, and he wonders what it is. Startled, he reaches for the mysterious, pulsating orb. Composing himself, he decides to analyze the events that just transpired. He reflects on inheriting the memories of his previous turn, though the term itself is unfamiliar. He understands that the memories are from another version of himself from a few years in the future. The memories show a horrifying vision of a ruined world, a future where everything had fallen. He recalls absorbing all the knowledge and experiences from that dark time, including the deaths of his friends. He smirks, concluding this world's future is likely different from the one in his memories. Touching the crystal wall, he notes that too many things are already out of place for that future to be his own. A system window appears displaying his new skill list, creating, link, rental pay, and Grid World. He points forward, ready to explain his new understanding of the world. According to his future memories, the term player refers to a chosen few who have awakened, but they don't exist yet. His memories confirm that in 2 years, Moon Do-yoon will be among the first to be chosen as a player. He remembers how the system's blue screens appeared only to players, baffling onlookers in the future. Players received not only the system, but also unique rewards and skills, setting them apart from regular awakeners. These two advantages, the system and its rewards, allowed players to achieve explosive growth, far surpassing their peers. He reflects on his memories, noting that because his guild leader was chosen as a player, the Dawn Guild grew into a first-class guild. He muses that while he had no direct part in it, the guild's success was the catalyst for his own growth in his previous life. He thinks about the convenience of the system window, realizing that if his skills have transferred over, he's far more powerful than before. A system notification reveals a new passive skill, Magic Absorption, which he didn't have in his past life, and he wonders if it's a special reward just for him. He examines the skill's ability to accumulate energy from contaminated mana, thinking he already has an idea of how to obtain it. Deciding to worry about his new skill later, he looks over at the frozen, impaled body of his past self. With a determined gaze, he concludes that taking care of the body is his first priority. The scene shifts to a grand building at sunset, identified as the Hunter Association headquarters. Peeking through window blinds, a brown-haired man asks if they can just send the survivor home, to which a reddish brown-haired woman replies, "What?" As Shin Junseo walks away from the building, a thought bubble notes he was the only survivor, a D-rank supporter. The brown-haired man explains that Jonse's actions were unusual. He recovered the bodies and filed a report, but the gate itself has already vanished. The reddish-brown-haired woman asks her senior what he thinks, finding the situation weird and questioning if he believes a D-rank supporter could have killed a hunter. Tap, with a light smack from a folder, the senior tells her to wake up because this isn't a simple civilian case, causing her to yelp, "Ah!" The senior holds the case file, stating that events inside dungeons are hard to verify and they can only gather evidence as it comes. The distressed woman agrees, but frantically asks for his theories, noting these kinds of incidents are happening more frequently. Her senior explains that many hunters go missing by secretly entering unreported gates, risking their lives for treasure rather than accepting the smaller association reward. He dismisses her, telling her to call Junseo for more questions as he leaves. She obediently says goodbye. The senior walks alone down a long, sunlit corridor. He pauses to look at the file, reading the name Shin Junseo with a pensive expression. He thinks to himself that despite his dismissive words, this case feels different, and something is naggingly off about it. In a flashback, he recalls that Junseo was far too calm during his investigation. He remembers thinking that for an inexperienced hunter who just survived a massacre, Junseo's clear explanation of events was strange. He tries to rationalize it as Junseo's normal personality, admitting he's seen unflappable people before. Frustrated, he concludes that while he knows something is wrong, he can't figure out what it is. He sighs, deciding it's not his problem to worry about for now. Back outside, Shin Junseo walks across a bridge at sunset, deciding he needs to investigate the matter himself. He stares at his phone, troubled by the association's claim of an unconfirmed gate. He remembers his guildmates happily reviewing the gate bid form, confirming everyone had checked it. The memory of the association's official stamp on the form makes him question the current story. He considers two possibilities. Someone impersonated the association, or the association itself is involved in the deception. With a jolt, he remembers the investigator's words, realizing that his guild isn't the only one to suffer from these unconfirmed gates. A news headline on his phone confirms a third incident this year, and he realizes all the targeted guilds share a common theme. He realizes they all included future heroes and players, like his guild leader, Moon Do-yoon. He stops walking, a stark realization hitting him. Someone is actively trying to eliminate the world's future heroes. Staring into the sunset with newfound resolve, he decides his only path forward is to hide his abilities. He understands that as the sole survivor of an unsolved case, he is being watched, and any suspicious action will get him caught. He turns his head slightly, the city lights reflecting in his determined eyes. He knows he has 2 years until the first player selection, and must develop all his skills in preparation. Surrounded by glowing blue system windows, he resolves to find a way to grow stronger without attracting attention. He scans his skills for something useful, and a sudden idea strikes him. With a confident smirk and glowing eyes, he points forward, thinking, I do have this. 1 year later, the scene shifts to a vast, misty green forest. A bright light flashes within the dense, magical-looking woods. A blonde-haired man grunts as he violently blocks a werewolf's claw attack with a heavy shield. He looks up in horror as the monster's overwhelming strength begins to shatter his defense. The powerful blow sends the blonde man hurtling backward through the air. Landing deftly, he draws a sword and prepares to counterattack. The blonde man stares up in shock as the werewolf leaps high, descending for a devastating strike. Coke! He cries out, straining to parry the fierce blow with his sword. Panting heavily, the blonde man kneels and thinks, ugh, while his tired-looking party stands ready behind him. The blonde man and his party are confronted by a snarling, red-eyed gnoll monster, wielding a spiked mace and a wooden shield. A system window identifies the beast as a D-rank gnoll lord, a creature with superior physical abilities and immunity to magic. The blonde party leader trembles, realizing in terror that a gnoll lord should be impossible to find in a low-level E-rank dungeon. He thinks in a panic that he's heard this monster is notoriously difficult to handle, even among D-rank hunters. Wham! The gnoll lord lunges forward in a blur of motion, overwhelming the party's defenses with a ferocious attack. The attack connects in a blinding flash of power. A black-haired man in armor grunts, straining to intercept the powerful blow. Thud! He manages to block the gnoll lord's strike with his large shield, but the impact sends shockwaves through the air. The black-haired tank grimaces, his body shaking from the sheer force of the monster's assault. The blonde leader yells from the backline, that they won't last much longer if they only defend. Just damage it a bit, the black-haired tank shouts back desperately. The blonde man recalls the No Lord's dreaded title, the death god of low-level hunters, knowing it's feared for more than its strength. He thinks about how low-level parties rely on magic, a tactic that is completely useless against this particular monster. He remembers that hunters who are overconfident in their magic face true fear for the first time when they encounter a No Lord. Pow! The monster's brutal physical assault is the price of their complacency and strategic error. The blonde man despairs, knowing he's their only physical attacker, but he's terrible at close combat and his weapon is already destroyed. The black-haired tank yells in frustration, asking how he's supposed to attack now that he has no spare weapons left. The blonde leader regrets his greed, wishing he'd hired a full party instead of cutting costs with a magician, a decision now biting him in the ass. His attention is suddenly caught by a figure in the distance, working near a blue campfire, as he thinks, that person. A system window explains the role of a helper, a non-combatant who collects and transports byproducts like magic stones. The blonde man remembers they hired a helper, growing angry that the man is just casually mining while the party faces annihilation. Shin Junseo calmly examines the glowing blue magic crystals he's gathered with his pickaxe. Seeing a glimmer of hope, the blonde man wonders if the helper has a maker aptitude, deciding to take the chance despite expecting poor quality. "Hey," the blonde man yells, turning his attention to Junseo as his party members struggle behind him. Junseo turns to face them, his expression calm amidst the chaos, a faint blue energy swirling around him. The blonde man desperately asks if Junseo is a maker and if he can create swords. With his broken weapon in hand, he begs for any kind of sword, pleading for it to be a very sturdy one. Junseo calmly places a hand on the leader's shoulder, reminding him that he joined the party as a helper, not a support member. The blonde man shouts back in a panic, insisting it's no time for such careless distinctions when they're all about to die. He furiously points out that if the boss isn't defeated, the helper will die along with them. "Fine," Junseo replies, as a glowing blue sword materializes from crystal shards, "but I have a condition." Handing over the shimmering new weapon, he demands they forget his ability after the dungeon is cleared and pay him a standard support's share. The blonde man erupts, questioning the quality of a weapon from a mere helper and expressing disbelief that they can clear the dungeon, demanding to know what he means by forget. The party's tank looks on in surprise as Junseo explains that good weapons are a necessary element for success. Another armored party member inspects his own newly crafted glowing sword with awe as Junseo guarantees its quality. As he states that the necessary element is now in their hands, the blonde leader stares in utter shock. With glowing blue eyes and a confident smirk, Junseo presents his power, a faint blue aura emanating from his outstretched hand. The scene changes to the towering headquarters of the Overkill Guild, one of Korea's 3 most powerful guilds. The red-haired woman from the Hunter Association arrives in a well-lit modern office. A brown-haired man, the guildmaster, explains that they've received a high-paying cooperation request concerning a dungeon with a rank error. He reviews a news article about a party successfully clearing a similar dungeon, noting that few awakeners can even enter a gate after it's been forcibly closed. The guildmaster zooms in on a photo from the article, recognizing Shin Junseo and thinking he's definitely seen him before. He recalls being dispatched to a rank error dungeon in Seochodong a few weeks prior and seeing Junseo there. He remembers seeing Junseo at the scene, and that the official report listed him simply as a helper. The guildmaster muses on how rare it is for anyone to survive a rank error dungeon. He finds it highly suspicious that this one helper has been part of a party that survived such an incident not once, but twice. The guildmaster informs the red-haired woman that a D-rank dungeon recently switched to B-rank, wiping out the entire party instantly. He remarks on the headache this must be for the Awakeners Association, and she confirms that the association is receiving heavy criticism. He thinks to himself that the Ajusi, likely the senior investigator, must be suffering right now. The red-haired woman notes that their guild's trespass skill users are profiting, so the guildmaster decides to accept more commissions while monitoring the situation. Seated in his office chair, the brown-haired guildmaster asks the red-haired woman about the matter he had her look into. The red-haired woman offers a B-rank weapon from a Japanese blacksmith, but he dismisses it, explaining that even A-rank weapons are destroyed by his skill. He laments that there are very few skilled makers to begin with. The guildmaster tells her to continue the search, stating he's reaching his limit for wasting weapons, and she acknowledges his order. Thump. A man with a buzz cut and goatee bursts in, urgently calling for Taehyun. The guildmaster, Yoon Taehyun, turns from the window and asks what the issue is. The man with the buzz cut reports that a dispatch request from the association is for a D-rank dungeon where their guild's newbies have entered. Sighing, the man with the buzz cut expresses his worry for the newbies, while Taehyun recognizes the urgency of the situation. Taehyun and his team stand with grim expressions, understanding the danger. The team arrives to find a massive, swirling red gate, menacing the city. A crowd of onlookers and reporters shouts in excitement as they recognize the arriving Overkill Guild. Reporters swarm Guildmaster Yoon Taehyun, peppering him with questions about the rank-error dungeons and his guild's involvement. A panting woman with glasses thanks Yoon Taehyun for coming personally, and he immediately asks for a status report. She explains that the trapped party of 9 had high qualifications, but that's now meaningless as the dungeon has been reanalyzed as C rank. Taehyun asks how long the team has been inside, and the woman confirms it's been about 2 hours. He resolves to do what he can, earning a heartfelt thank you from a desperate woman in the crowd. The guildmaster and the red-haired woman stand resolute before the swirling crimson vortex. Taehyun gestures forward as the red-haired woman prepares to use her ability. A system window identifies the B-rank support Min Hee-soo, a subspace opener who can create pocket dimensions as she draws her blade. Min Hee-soo slices the air, her blade tracing a path to open the subspace. With glowing red eyes, Taehyun ignites his own sword with fiery power. He unleashes a colossal flaming strike that shatters the dimensional barrier of the gate. Crack. He stands alone at the newly created entrance, having breached the dungeon. A system window explains his trespass skill, which can forcefully break any barrier but only allows the user to pass through. Min Hee-soo hands a sword to the guildmaster, cautioning him to be careful. Taehyun simply says okay as he prepares to enter the dungeon alone, leaving the crowd behind. He steps into the dungeon, surrounded by crackling red energy. He surveys the dark, desolate interior of the dungeon from a high ledge. Standing before the unstable gate, Taehyun analyzes the dungeon's high temperature and humidity. He deduces from the bad smell and clean floors that the monsters are intelligent reptiles. Considering the dungeon's rank, he confidently determines the identity of the foes. He identifies them as old lizard men, as a system window provides details on the D-rank monster. Examining the battlefield of slain monsters, he gauges the fighting power of both the monsters and the trapped party. Kree! A ferocious green lizard man lets out a piercing screech. The blonde party leader strains to block a monster's attack with a massive, crafted blade. A long-haired archer swiftly draws his bow and lets an arrow fly. Boom. The party's mage unleashes a powerful blast of magic. Watching from above, Taehyun is stunned to see the hunters are not just surviving, but overwhelming the lizard men. He analyzes the fight, concluding the lizard men are physically superior, and questioning what's causing the difference in power. A lizard man's powerful tail swipe sends one of the party members flying. The blonde leader looks up in horror as a lizard man looms over him for the final blow, its red eye gleaming. Taehyun decides with grim determination that it's not too late. Whoosh! In a blur of light, he rockets down toward the battle. A glowing blue sword materializes from thin air to block the lizard man's attack, shocking the beast. Huff, huff. The terrified blonde leader stares up at his unexpected savior. Taehyun wonders if the save was due to magic, but quickly realizes a weapon was created in midair. His eyes dart around as he frantically searches for the creator of the weapon. He spots Shin Jonseo in the distance, his eyes and hand glowing with blue energy. The two lock eyes across the cavern in a moment of stunned silence. In a quick sequence, the party's tank counts 1, an archer counts 2, 3, and a mage counts 4, 5 as they execute coordinated assault. The party's mage and a blonde woman continue the count, 6, 7, as they unleash their own attacks. Watching from a distance with his pickaxe, Shin Junso calmly finishes the tally. 8, 9, and 10. Yoon Taehyun concludes, finishing the head count with a pointed finger. Taehyun realizes the number is wrong, thinking he only saw 9 people enter and angrily demanding to know what's going on. A party member clashes violently with a charging lizard man in a blur of motion. Ugh. A white-haired party member hits the ground hard after being struck. Whew. A massive lizard man looms over the fallen hunters, raising its huge cleaver for a finishing blow. From his position, Junziao unleashes a powerful pulse of blue energy from his hand. With glowing red eyes, Taehyun swings his blade in a sweeping arc. a whirlwind of power erupting around him. Junseo watches the battle, surprised that Guildmaster Yoon Taehyun himself came to the rescue. He eyes the unused katana on Taehyun's back, wondering if it's just a spare. Junseo stands poised with his pickaxe, calmly observing the chaotic scene unfold. A massive burst of fire engulfs the lizard man as it attacks two downed party members. Taehyun stands protectively over the injured hunters, ordering them to step back. Thank you, a terrified party member says, supporting his wounded, white-haired comrade. Taehyun's sword intercepts the lizard man's giant cleaver with a powerful clang. His sword now wreathed in roaring flames, Taehyun prepares for a counterattack. Taehyun unleashes a blinding flurry of fiery slashes, overwhelming the monster. The lizard man is sliced in two by the powerful strike, its body disintegrating in a spray of green light. The monster collapses as Taehyun stands victorious over the remains. Taehyun stares at his sword as it cracks and dissolves, lamenting that the B-grade weapon was too weak to handle his full power. A new, even larger green lizard man emerges from the shadows with a ferocious roar. Taehyun blasts the creature with a wave of energy, which it meets head-on. Taehyun narrowly dodges the monster's crushing blow, leaping out of the way just in time. Taehyun turns and calls out to Junseo amidst the dungeon's chaos. He holds up his shattered blade, asking Junseo if his own weapons always break when he uses a skill. Taehyun complains about the weapon's poor durability, prompting Junseo to ask if he's trying to pick a fight. A glowing blue sword materializes before a surprised Taehyun. With his hand emanating blue energy, Junseo offers the new weapon, telling him to use it. As Taehyun stares in shock, Junseo tells him to stop smashing poor weapons, making Taehyun marvel that he created it with a single gesture. Taehyun realizes that Junseo is not just a weapon maker, but an extremely competent and skilled one. He wonders why such a talented person would work as a helper, though he recalls hearing of low-grade supporters taking such jobs for money. Junseo states his condition. After the dungeon is cleared, Taehyun must forget everything about his skills and his identity. Taehyun smirks, questioning how he could possibly forget such a thing just because he's told to. Junseo calmly dares him to go ahead and smash all the high-class weapons if he doesn't accept the deal. Taehyun takes the sword, thinking that while it will probably get crushed by his skill, having another weapon can't hurt. As a lizard man charges, Taehyun reluctantly agrees, promising he'll forget. He moves with blinding speed, effortlessly dodging the monster's lunge. The lizard man swings its powerful arms in a furious assault. With glowing red eyes, Taehyun unleashes a fiery slash with the newly crafted sword. He clashes with the monster in a brilliant explosion of flame and steel. The monster roars as the burning blade makes contact with its tough hide. To Taehyun's astonishment, the monster's weapon shatters upon impact, not his own. He thinks in disbelief that he was only trying to deflect the blow, yet the opponent's weapon broke first. He realizes that not only was his control better, but the weapon itself must be remarkably strong. Taehyun glances toward Junseo, realizing he can manifest a weapon of at least B-grade quality instantly. A massive, shadowy lizard man with glowing red eyes looms over Taehyun, ready to strike. With his eyes now glowing a brilliant gold, Taehyun smirks, finding the situation interesting. He decides to test the weapon's true limits and wonders if he should crank up his power. Taehyun unleashes an immense, swirling inferno that engulfs the entire area. With his eyes glowing red, Taehyun leaps over the lizard man, preparing a devastating downward strike. Chalk! He buries his flaming sword into the monster's back with tremendous force. Wah! The blade sinks deeper as the beast roars in agony, engulfed in flames. The massive lizard man finally collapses, defeated. Taehyun stands over the fallen monster, holding the glowing blue sword, which remains perfectly intact. He thinks with surprise that the weapon has no scratches and decides on his next move as a party member cries out his name. 3 rescued hunters cheer his arrival, overjoyed and thanking him for saving their lives. Taehyun turns to them, expressing his relief that they don't appear to be seriously injured. A black-haired party member explains that they only held out thanks to that person over there. Taehyun approaches the seated Junseo and asks for his name. Taehyun stands over Junseo, questioning why anyone would need to know the name of a mere helper. Standing to face him, The young man introduces himself as Shin Junzio. Taehyun tells Junzio that he'll leave the mana stones at the entrance, and Junzio simply agrees. Taehyun stops him with a hand on his shoulder, unexpectedly inviting Junzio to the boss room. Taehyun explains to a party member that they're in an error dungeon and can't leave until the boss is beaten, but notes Junzio is more than capable of handling it. Taehyun holds up the blue sword, questioning the point of using it if his skills will just shatter it anyway. Taehyun looks down a dark passage, stating that as a class error dungeon, the monsters here are far beyond average lizardmen. He warns that if the boss is similarly upgraded, no amount of caution will be excessive. Taehyun and Junzio stride forward together, ready to confront the dangers of the boss room. The two enter a vast, torchlit coliseum, the air thick with anticipation. A massive, black-scaled lizard king with crystal spikes sits on a throne, with a system window identifying its danger level as C+. Junzio calmly advises Taehyun to ignore any pre-existing information on danger levels. Taehyun agrees with a smile, determined to end the fight as quickly as possible. Taehyun jokes that his weapon might snap if they take too long, but Junzio confidently reassures him that it won't break. A vicious, red-skinned monster with a demonic mask and sharp teeth appears, ready for battle. The scene focuses on the imposing Lizard King, watching from its throne as its red eyes gleam. The red monster brandishes a massive, cube-headed mace, radiating power. The Lizard King lunges forward, its red eyes streaking through the darkness as it attacks. Whoosh, Junzio and Taehyun leap apart as the Lizard King smashes the ground between them. From above, Taehyun gathers a swirling vortex of energy, his eyes glowing ominously. The Lizard King counters, unleashing a powerful whirlwind with a sweep of its crystal-spiked tail. The reptilian beast charges forward in a blur of motion, rushing its target. Taehyun braces for the impact, his sword held steady against the beast's charge. The monster's tail whips around, creating a massive vortex aimed directly at Taehyun. Taehyun digs in his heels, standing firm against the powerful winds of the attack. He pushes forward through the gale, his own aura erupting to counter the force. A mysterious red-armored warrior leaps from the throne, hurtling towards the Lizard King with a spear. Taehyun, his eyes glowing gold, clashes swords with the demonic red monster. The arena floor cracks and shatters from the force of the battle between the Lizard King and the Red Warrior. The Red Warrior stands over the Lizard King as the beast spews a torrent of fire. The fiery blast engulfs the Red Warrior in a massive, searing explosion. A glowing blue shield materializes, completely protecting the warrior from the inferno. From a distance, Junzio manipulates the energy, his hand glowing as he controls the shield. The shield dissipates, revealing the warrior completely unscathed by the fiery onslaught. Taehyun turns to Junzio, questioning his role as a weapon maker, but Junzio retorts that a shield can also be a weapon. With his eyes blazing, Taehyun smirks, vowing to question Shin Junzio about everything once they escape. A powerful energy beam slices across the battlefield, narrowly missing the red-masked monster. The monster retaliates, whipping a massive, heavy chain through the air. Taehyun's hand ignites with golden flames as he prepares to intercept the incoming chain. The chain-wielding monster grins menacingly as it unleashes its powerful attack. Whack! Taehyun whips the glowing blue sword, which transforms into a flexible chain blade, striking the demonic monster. Watching the battle, Junseo's eyes glow blue as he chides Taehyun to stop playing around and fight properly. With a smirk, Taehyun reminds Junseo that he was the one who asked him to test the weapon out. Taehyun grips his new katana, thinking that Junseo's way of speaking is more suited for a pet. The blue chain blade wraps around the Red Warrior, delivering a vicious, multi-hit strike. Kuruk! The red-skinned monster reels back in shock, splattered with green energy from the attack. With glowing orange eyes, Taehyun presses his assault, swinging the energized blade with incredible speed. A clean slash of light cuts across the monster's chest, leaving a deep wound. The red-skinned monster stares in disbelief as Taehyun stands opposite him, his eyes glowing ominously. With a final, powerful blow, Taehyun sends the demonic monster flying backward through the air. The massive Lizard King suddenly pins the weakened red-skinned monster to the ground with its crystal-spiked arm. Taehyun leaps high above the arena, looking down as the Lizard King stares up at him. Taehyun readies a powerful attack from above, as the red-skinned monster on the ground watches in terror. He unleashes a massive, swirling inferno, completely engulfing the helpless red-skinned monster. The monster cries out in agony as the flames scorch its body, disintegrating its arm. Through the inferno, the monster is shocked to see Junseo standing calmly near the arena's exit. Grabbing a nearby spear, the enraged monster charges directly at the unmoving Junseo. Just as the spear is about to impale him, a glowing blue hexagonal shield materializes, blocking the attack. Surrounded by a powerful blue aura, Junseo effortlessly stops the monster, demanding to know who it thinks it's aiming at. Taehyun glares down at the monster, his body wreathed in a blazing inferno. The red-skinned monster snarls, its single yellow eye burning with fury. Outside, a massive, swirling red dungeon gate hangs in the sky as reporters and onlookers watch. As the gate turns blue and begins to open, the crowd wonders if the hunters have successfully cleared it. A triumphant party, led by Taehyun and the rescued hunters, emerges from the glowing blue portal. The press immediately surrounds Guildmaster Yoon Taehyun, bombarding him with questions about the dungeon and his team's safety. A large, bald man checks on a red-haired woman, asking if she's hurt, to which she replies she's fine. The rescued hunters express their immense gratitude to Taehyun, admitting they wouldn't have survived without him. Junseo quietly informs a guild official that he's already been paid and is leaving, receiving a simple good work in return. A reporter asks Taehyun how he cleared the dungeon so quickly, suggesting it must have been easy for him. Taehyun smiles mysteriously, telling the reporter that it wasn't him, but rather someone else who was key. A reporter asks one of the rescued hunters if Taehyun defeated all the monsters while the others supported him. The hunter agrees, explaining how dangerous it was and that all their weapons were destroyed, crediting the guildmaster for their survival. Another hunter angrily grabs him, insisting they only lasted so long because that person kept making them new weapons. He clarifies that it was the support helper, the weapon maker, leaving the other hunter to repeat his words in confusion. The hunters discuss the situation, confused about whether the support helper truly had such an amazing ability. Another hunter asks the group if they didn't witness the helper creating weapons, but they respond with confusion. One of the hunters reasons that the helper must have lost the pickaxe he brought after mining all the mana stones, completely forgetting the truth. Taehyun watches the hunters, realizing, with concern that they've forgotten, Junseo gave them weapons and wonders what is happening. He recalls Junseo's strict condition to forget everything related to his ability after the raid. Taehyun is stunned, realizing Junseo used rental pay, a skill exclusive to A-rank or higher makers, to enforce the memory wipe. His guildmates, the large man and red-haired woman, notice his distress and ask what's wrong. The large man is suddenly startled, dropping the trunk he was carrying in surprise. He shouts Taehyun's name as he spots the guildmaster running away from the crowd at high speed. Taehyun sprints down a park path, his guild members left far behind. He desperately scans the area, wondering where Junseo went and if he's already gone. Taehyun stands alone amid the trees at sunset, his expression one of grim determination. His guild members finally catch up, calling his name and asking him what's wrong. The scene transitions to the Overkill Guild headquarters against a beautiful sunset sky. In his office, Taehyun receives a report from the red-haired woman about Junseo entering a D-rank dungeon earlier that day. Taehyun acknowledges the report and, with a serious look, tells the woman there's something he needs to ask her. The red-haired woman, Hisu, questions Taehyun's intense interest in Junseo, reminding him that Junseo is just a D-rank maker. At his desk, Taehyun wryly asks Hisu if that's what it seems like, privately acknowledging that's all anyone could think based on the official records. He reviews Junseo's file on a tablet, which lists him as a D-rank supporter, thinking that all available information confirms this low rank. A system window explains the A-rank skill rental pay, which can compel a request from someone who borrows a materialized object. Looking out over the city, Taehyun reflects on the incredible skillfulness Junseo displayed with rental pay, something he's never witnessed before. With a determined look, Taehyun muses that a weapon maker with such talent could easily reach the highest levels of power. He smirks confidently, thinking that he will find out all the answers the next time he meets Junseo. Taehyun recalls the unique sensation of wielding the sword Junseo made, a feeling he's never experienced with any other weapon. In a flashback, a younger-looking man with brown hair smiles as he holds a new, gleaming sword. The scene shifts to a burly, mustached blacksmith standing proudly in his forge before a table of his finest swords. The younger, brown-haired man swings a sword from the blacksmith's collection inside the forge. His eyes glow with fiery power as he channels his energy into the blade. The blacksmith watches with a confident, knowing smirk as the test begins. The man unleashes a torrent of fiery energy, engulfing the sword in a blazing inferno. The sword shatters spectacularly under the immense power of his fiery attack. The man looks down in disappointment at the remains of the broken weapon. His hand rests on the shattered hilt of the sword. The blacksmith grabs his head and screams in utter frustration at his weapon's failure. As the disappointed man walks away, he reflects that no weapon maker had ever been able to fulfill his expectations. He recalls how Junseo's creations defied all normal limitations, exceeding the boundaries of form and ability as if they didn't exist. Back in the present, Taehin holds the katana, believing that with Shin Junseo's abilities, his ambitions might finally be possible. Taehyun considers that a D-rank dungeon takes about 4 hours to clear, leaving 1 hour until Junseo is done, and asks Hisu for his schedule. After Hisu reminds him of a meeting with Guildmaster Hyunmu, Taehyun immediately cancels, deciding to leave ahead of time. A swirling blue dungeon portal materializes in a desolate, rocky landscape. Cheek, a green, muscular monster, is violently struck down. A knight in full plate armor stands victorious over the fallen monster as his party watches. The knight stares at his sword in disbelief, unable to believe a weapon made by a mere helper could be so powerful. He realizes that to destroy the boss's weapon, his sword must have at least B-rank quality, far beyond what he expected. A black-haired hunter sighs in relief, amazed that the helper's unexpected ability saved them after his own weapon broke. The knight cheerfully thanks Junseo as he walks away, calling him helper friend. A blonde, female party member suggests recruiting Junseo to their guild, an idea the knight enthusiastically supports. The black-haired hunter watches Junseo leave, thinking it's a shame for someone with his talent to be a mere helper, and the blonde woman agrees. The knight remarks to the blonde woman that he's surprised their party struggled so much in a dungeon that wasn't even an error dungeon. Junseo stands before a glowing mana crystal, lamenting that if he'd had more mana, things wouldn't have been so difficult. He recalls the immense mana that disappeared after he defeated the golem, clenching his fist as he remembers its power before smirking with satisfaction. Looking at his hand's faint blue glow, Junseo notes his current mana is no better than a D-ranks, but feels relieved that weapon creation is still fine. He summons a glowing blue pickaxe, thinking how useful his past life's memories are proving to be. A diagram explains the basics of creating where the weapon's quality is proportional to the mana used. The explanation continues, highlighting that a higher level of understanding of an object results in a higher quality creation. Chibi diagrams illustrate that with a higher level of understanding, the same mana creates a far superior weapon. Junseo recalls his past life's rigorous training regimen, including research, hunter support, and weapon-making lessons after his hidden ability was discovered. Back in the present, he swings the ethereal pickaxe, feeling that the results of his creation ability are better than he expected. He notes that while he can't quantify the improvement, the quality boost relative to the mana spent is far more than just additional. Sitting down with a mana crystal, Junseo admits his power is still lacking, and that using both creating and rental pay is difficult. He wistfully eyes images of expensive mana-related equipment, knowing he can't afford any of it right now. He resolves to get mana potions, the only mana-related item that can be mass-produced, and stuffs his bag with crystals. He plans to order more potions despite the financial struggle, knowing he must work as a helper, since no one hires a D-rank maker for support. A system window appears for his passive skill Mana Absorption, which rewards him after accumulating enough polluted mana, and he feels relieved the results are good. He inspects the progress bar, noting it's nearly full, with only about 20% left to go. Realizing a few dungeon clears won't be efficient enough to fill the bar, Junseo considers his only remaining option. Junseo resolves to absorb a massive amount of mana at once, knowing of a special place that offers far greater absorption. He considers the unpredictability of an error dungeon, recalling that the last raid would have been impossible without Taehyun. Readying his gear, he decides to prepare for an A-rank boss, seeing it as the only way for a D-rank to grow. As the glowing blue dungeon portal closes, a party member cheerfully congratulates everyone on a successful clear. The grateful hunters wave goodbye to Junseo, hoping to meet him again on another raid. Walking away, Junseo feels a quiet satisfaction, knowing he successfully erased the party's memories of his true abilities. His peaceful departure is cut short as he suddenly turns, sensing an approaching presence. Just down the path, Guildmaster Taehyun and his red-haired companion, Hisu, walk toward him with purpose. "Do you remember me?" Taehyun asks, and Junseo realizes with a jolt that his memory wipe completely failed on him. Junseo sighs, feigning ignorance and asking if Taehyun would believe him if he said he didn't remember. Taehyun smirks and says, "Nope," as he offers Junseo a business card, with Hisu standing behind him. Taking the card, Junseo warily asks what business the guildmaster could possibly have with him. Taehyun states plainly that he has something he needs to discuss, his determined face reflected on the card. Junseo immediately recognizes the Overkill Guild, one of Korea's top 3, and understands the gravity of the situation. He decides he must get away, thinking he can't possibly get involved with such a powerful guild yet. Turning to leave, he makes an excuse about having a prior dinner appointment, but Taehyun remains unconvinced. Taehyun firmly grabs his shoulder, stopping him and insisting that he won't regret their conversation. With a charming smile, Taehyun sweetens the deal, promising it won't take long and that dinner is on him. Junseo scoffs at the guildmaster, having time for a D-rank supporter, to which Taehyun smugly agrees. Junseo reluctantly agrees, deciding he needs to find out just how much of rental pay failed on Taehyun. Looking over his shoulder, he relents, agreeing to talk, but only for a little while. "Of course," Hisu says softly, as she follows the two men into the evening. The scene transitions to a luxurious, traditional-style restaurant as the sun sets. Seated across from Taehyun at a table laden with food, Junseo prompts him to begin. Junseo bluntly asks what business the Overkill Guildmaster has with a D-rank supporter, doubting it's for small talk. Taehyun reveals he is a berserker, whose overwhelming attack power is limited by the fragility of his weapons. He explains that finding a weapon supplier who can match his power is his most important and frustrating task. His search led him to countless top-tier blacksmiths across the world, but none could meet his needs. He even sought out rare weapon makers, commissioning works with no regard for time or money, all to no avail. In a flashback, he holds a glowing katana, reflecting that every weapon he'd ever owned had failed him. He grimly recalls how none of them could withstand his full power, showing a memory of a cracking blade. Until now, Taehyun states, there has only been one exception to that rule. A stylized image shows Junseo offering the legendary sword to a kneeling Taehyun. Taehyun looks directly at him, declaring that the one exception was the sword Junseo created. Junseo realizes rental pay was completely nullified, thinking he was careless not to consider a resistance skill for the berserker class. He makes a mental note to be more careful with high-level hunters, as Taehyun addresses him by name. Putting down his cup, Taehyun looks at him seriously and decides to be straightforward. With his guildmates looking on from the doorway, Taehyun gets to the point. "Would you like to join my guild?" Hisu adds that she knows he's unaffiliated and promises he will receive the absolute best treatment. Taehyun details an incredible offer: a 10 billion won contracting fee, expenses, dividends, and a yearly 10% raise. Just as Taehyun mentions the contract, Junseo cuts him off with a simple, "I'm sorry. I'll have to refuse," Junseo states calmly, explaining that he has no plans to join a guild right now. He smiles politely, thanks them for the food, and prepares to leave as if their business is done. Taehyun calls out, "Shin Junseo," says I, as he watches him walk away, not ready to give up. The red-haired woman, Hisu, turns to her guildmaster in disbelief, asking why he made such an extravagant offer. Taehyun replies that if she had experienced what he did with that sword, she would understand completely. He recalls it's been a long time since a weapon didn't scream under the strain of his power. With Junseo's sword, he felt for the first time that a weapon could take all he had and actually withstand it. He then asks her to guess the total cost of all the high-level weapons he has ruined in just 1 year. Hisu's eyes widen with dawning horror as she realizes the guild's weapon expenses are indeed astronomical. Hisu explains that without a weapon of a certain rank, Taehyun's true power cannot even be released. Taehyun adds that until now, no one, not even the so-called best, has been able to forge such a weapon. Hisu looks on with concern, beginning to understand the depth of his desperation. Taehyun smiles with conviction, declaring he wants to recruit Junseo at all costs, regardless of the offer. The scene transitions to a shimmering cityscape as evening falls. Walking through the city, Junseo marvels that he just rejected a scout offer from one of the top 3 guilds. He thinks of the Overkill Guild and Yeontaeon admitting that while their help would be great, it's too soon to get involved. Resigned to waiting, Junseo walks on, confident that the determined guildmaster will inevitably come find him again. The scene shifts to a dungeon where a young, brown-haired knight fiercely cuts down shadowy monsters. Huff, huff, a lone wounded knight pants, heavily demanding to know the identity of his new unseen foe. A mysterious figure with a massive bloodied sword remarks that the knight's resilience is memorable, unlike others who beg for their lives. The attacker is revealed, a blue-haired man with a cruel smile, wondering if this hero is truly different. The knight asks if he's being killed for his trophies, but the blue-haired man dismisses the reason as boring and refuses to tell him. The blue-haired man scoffs, stating it's a waste of energy to explain to the dying, but offers to talk if the knight wins. With a demonic grin, he challenges the knight to attack if he wishes to live. The knight realizes his opponent is too strong to fight from a distance and that he will surely die. He charges with a desperate roar, resolving to risk a limb to get in close. Their swords meet with a blinding, explosive clash of steel. Ha! The knight screams, putting all his strength into his desperate assault. The two warriors exchange a rapid flurry of powerful, light-infused strikes in the dark dungeon. The blue-haired man's eye narrows with intense focus as he parries another blow. With effortless grace, the blue-haired man sidesteps the knight's attack. The knight watches in shock as his sword is knocked from his grasp, asking, "What?" The blue-haired man leaps and brings his massive blade down for a finishing blow. A massive pillar of light erupts from the point of impact, devastating the area. The knight collapses against a shattered wall, trembling in defeat and pain. The blue-haired man looks down in disappointment, musing that for a hero subjugation, the knight was just a small fry. On his hands and knees, the defeated knight apologizes and begs for his life. The blue-haired man raises his sword, coolly promising to send him off cleanly. Blood splatters as the blue-haired man executes the helpless knight. The dungeon floor is now littered with the corpses of monsters and the fallen knight. The blue-haired man clicks his tongue in annoyance, lamenting that he didn't even get a decent fight. He looks down at his victim, muttering that the fight wasn't even good enough for a warm-up. He mockingly reassures the corpse that he'll be reported as having died heroically against the boss. A wicked grin spreads across his face as he adds that this is a common occurrence in a rank error dungeon. Looking at his phone, he smirks and says, nice. He scrolls through photos of his victims, declaring that his collection has grown and that he lives for this. His expression suddenly shifts to one of annoyance as he senses a presence. He grits his teeth, telling the newcomer to at least hide properly or announce their arrival. A woman with long, pale lavender hair and a dark aura appears, apologizing for rushing in after hearing of precious ingredients. She glances at the corpses and dismisses them as idiots, not the ingredients she was looking for. The blue-haired man turns away as the woman chides him for not listening to that person and waiting. Her eyes glow ominously as she questions if he intends to defy the wishes of their executor. Teasking, the blue-haired man tells the sensitive woman to just clean up, and she cheerfully agrees, calling it her specialty. He thinks back to a promise that he could fight an S-Rank hunter, admitting it's the only reason he's with this group. As the woman weaves red energy, he complains that some consciousness forces him to kill cleanly, while she promises to contact him soon. Blood splatters as she performs her ritual, wondering aloud who will emerge this time. A monstrous form begins to rise from a pool of blood, startling an unseen observer. The lavender-haired woman looks on with gleeful, crazed excitement, exclaiming, "This child!" She stares in awe as a massive, fanged, demonic silhouette rises before her, realizing that person was right all along. A massive, swirling blue portal looms in the sky as a crowd of onlookers and men in black suits gather. A man in a blue hoodie and black face mask, carrying a large weapon case, tips his cap in greeting. Standing before the portal, the masked man faces off with the black-haired Junseo. Junseo looks startled, demanding to know why this familiar acquaintance is here. The masked man compliments Junseo on his sharp eye for recognizing him so quickly. Junseo explains that the weapon case is a dead giveaway and presses again for an answer. The masked man, Taehyun, says he's here for the gate, claiming to be a substitute for a sick guild member after Junseo questions his presence at a D-ranked gate. As another hunter calls for the raid to begin, Junseo internally doubts Taehyun's flimsy excuse. Watching Taehyun walk towards the gate, Junseo resigns himself, having expected the guildmaster to appear, but not this quickly. Now walking beside Taehyun, Jeonseo realizes he'll have to adjust his plans due to this unexpected development. The raid party, including Junso and Taehyun, ventures through the portal into the rocky darkness of a dungeon. Emerging from the swirling blue energy, Junso and Taehyun step into the cavern beyond. Taehyun looks ahead with a focused expression, ready for what the dungeon holds. Junseo turns his back on Taehyun, curtly stating he doesn't want to discuss their previous conversation anymore. Elsewhere in the party, two hunters gossip about the Hyunmu Guild buying a gate at an unusually high price. Overhearing them, Junseo ponders why the Hyunmu Guild would purchase a C-ranked gate, suspecting a hidden discovery. Taehyun continues his recruitment pitch, promising Junso that joining Overkill would grant him easy access to high-level gates. The scene flashes to a view of the towering modern Overkill Guild headquarters. A crowd of citizens cheers with adoration and excitement in the city streets below. Taehyun's voiceover explains that vested rights allow hunters to claim countless resources, symbolized by a knight surrounded by money. He elaborates that influence extends to politics, showing an auction for access to an A-ranked gate. Taehyun concludes that the most valuable treasures are naturally seized by the most powerful guilds. Taehyun presses Junseo, not understanding his rejection when Overkill could help him, but Junseo coldly dismisses him. Junseo shrewdly guesses Taehyun's persistence comes from the shock of having a scouting offer from Overkill rejected for the first time. Looking determined, Taehyun states firmly and clearly that he will not, under any circumstances, enter a guild. Taehyun silently wonders if Junseo's refusal is tied to the reported trauma from the Dawon Guild's annihilation, or another secret. The small party of hunters cautiously makes their way deeper into the cavern. One of the younger hunters recoils in disgust after walking straight into a sticky spiderweb. He looks up in dread, realizing the entire cave is covered in thick webbing. The party's tank, a man with light blue hair, takes charge, calling the other hunters noobs and starting a briefing. He explains that while individual monsters are weak, they attack in groups of about 50, underestimating the threat before them. As the monster's arrival is imminent, Taehyun draws his sword and tells Junseo to stay close. Taehyun states it's a combatant's duty to protect supports, vowing to defend Junseo whether he likes it or not. A heavy tremor shakes the cavern as the party braces for the incoming attack. A swarm of monstrous, red-eyed spiders descends upon them from the cavern ceiling. The young hunter from before trembles but tries to steady his nerves for the fight. He steels himself with the thought that they can win if they just remember their training. A system window identifies the creatures as Legion spiders, whose danger level scales with their numbers. The other party members watch in horror as the legion of spiders rushes toward them. The swarm of spiders surges forward with terrifying speed. The young hunter unleashes a glowing slash, bravely engaging the first monster. He grunts with effort, struggling against the creature's strength. With a sharp slice, his blade cuts through a spider, splattering green blood. More spiders ignore the hunters, scurrying towards a large stone door at the back of the cave. The blue-haired tank slams his shield into the ground, unleashing a wave of force. The party's pink-haired mage gathers energy, preparing to cast a powerful lightning spell. Arcs of brilliant blue lightning rain down, electrocuting the attacking spiders. Watching from the side, Taehyun assesses the party's performance, thinking they are competent enough for D ranks. Jeonseo is stunned, realizing the initial estimate was wrong as the cavern floor is revealed to be a sea of countless spiders. Faced with a much larger swarm than expected, Taehyun and Junseo prepare for a serious battle. A powerful, fiery slash from Taehyun instantly incinerates an attacking Legion spider. Taehyun effortlessly carves through the spiders, thinking that since their durability is low, a simple release of sword chi is enough. As his flaming attacks decimate the monsters, he confidently thinks he can finish the raid without even drawing his weapon. Meanwhile, the rest of the party is completely surrounded and overwhelmed by the sheer number of spiders. The blue-haired tank panics, exclaiming that the spiders won't stop coming and angrily demanding who did the recon, as there are hundreds, not 50. The pink-haired mage struggles, her hands glowing as she cries out that she's at her mana limit. Taehyun looks back with concern, seeing his party members on the verge of being overrun. Taehyun urges Junseo to follow him and help the others, but Junseo calmly tells him to go on ahead, stating he'll finish things here. Taehyun stops in his tracks, staring back in complete disbelief at Junseo's audacious claim. As Taehyun watches, Junseo stands his ground, calmly facing the tide of spiders rushing towards him alone. Taehyun yells for Junseo to get down, realizing he can't use his powerful sword chi without catching Junseo in the blast. Junseo remains serene and motionless as the monstrous spiders close in around him. His eyes snap open, now glowing with a brilliant blue grid-like pattern as he activates a hidden power. A single spider becomes encased in a blue digital matrix, perfectly targeted by Junseo's ability. Wham! A blade of pure blue energy materializes and slices cleanly through the targeted spider, splattering green blood. Taehyun watches from a distance, his eyes wide with shock at the unexpected display of power. With his foot on a vanquished spider, Junseo internally notes that of all the weapons he can make, a sword has the highest quality. He considers his options, concluding that while summoning multiple swords would be most effective, he currently lacks the mana for it. Thinking, if so, he summons a glowing blue rectangular screen, like a weapon blueprint. He pricks his finger, deciding there's no better way as a single drop of blood hovers before him. From his fingertip, a sleek, sharp blade of swirling blue energy materializes. A second blade forms, and the two energy swords now hover at his command, awaiting his direction. With a determined gaze, Junseo prepares to unleash his newly created weapons. He points forward, sending a swirling blade of blue energy flying towards the spider swarm. The blade zips through the air, heading straight for two legion spiders. The ethereal sword effortlessly impales a spider, destroying it instantly. His energy blade dances through the horde, carving a path of destruction through the monsters. Junseo stands as a lone silhouette amidst a maelstrom of his blue energy blades, which annihilate the entire swarm. Surrounded by his shimmering blue aura, Junseo gives a confident thumbs up, his work complete. A massive vortex of light trails fills the cavern, the remnants of Junseo's attack, with him and a stunned Taehyun at its center. The attack subsides, leaving Junseo standing calmly atop a mountain of spider corpses. Taehyun stands over a spider he just slew, his own sword embedded in it, still processing what he just witnessed. He stares in disbelief, trying to comprehend the massive, large-area attack Junseo just unleashed. He mentally calculates that Junseo defeated dozens of spiders in less than the 10 seconds a normal battle would take. Taehyun questions if it was a materialization skill but dismisses the thought, concluding that Junseo is simply a talented support who can fight. Junseo points towards the other struggling party members, asking Taehyun why he isn't going to help them. Taehyun turns away, seemingly caught off guard by the question after being frozen in shock. Back with the others, the tank's shield cracks under the onslaught as he grimly notes that the situation looks dire. Clad in a fiery red hoodie and mask, Taehyun readies his sword, standing before Junseo amidst flames. Taehyun casually adds, "Oh, also," as if remembering a minor detail. Junseo calmly asks Taehyun to handle the situation, reasoning that no one would believe a mere helper could have done it anyway. Taehyun's eyes glow with orange fire as he lowers his mask, silently accepting the task. He unleashes a massive torrent of fire, blasting through the remaining spiders with overwhelming force. In the aftermath, with smoldering spider corpses littering the ground, an unseen party member expresses their gratitude for being saved. The blue-haired tank, kneeling in relief, thanks Taehyun, and admits he was surprised, having thought he looked familiar. Taehyun, now back in his blue hoodie with his mask off, apologizes for the secrecy, explaining he came to quietly investigate the dungeon. Flustered by the apology, the tank insists they owe him their lives, as the pink-haired mage looks on. The pink-haired mage blushes with admiration, gushing about how cool it was to see him deal with the spiders before asking for a picture. Announcing, "I am back," the pink-haired mage returns to the group, lamenting to herself that she missed a chance to approach Junseo. Two more hunters arrive holding a lantern, apologizing for their lateness and explaining they were collecting byproducts. One of the hunters reports the area is clear of monsters, with Junseo listening quietly beside him. The hunter points out a new pathway, suggesting they can now venture deeper into the cave. The blue-haired tank stops him, deciding it's too risky and they should end the raid here, much to the hunter's surprise. The tank explains that the spider numbers and dungeon layout don't match the reconnaissance report, indicating a serious discrepancy. A flashback narration explains that dungeons are bizarre locations with features and creatures unknown to Earth. The narration continues over a shot of a hunter, noting that dungeon information was vital for the newly awakened. It's explained that few awakened could adapt to the alien environments of dungeons without proper guidance. Those with stealth or detection abilities became reconnaissance specialists, gathering information on commission. Memory shows a young recon specialist diligently taking notes in the field. Back in the present, the tank grimly notes that with recon reports being 98% accurate, this is likely a dangerous rank error dungeon. The young hunter pales, trembling at the mention of a rank error dungeon. Looking at Taehyun, he nervously suggests they can continue since they have the guildmaster with them. The tank holds up his hands, refusing to endanger everyone by relying on the guildmaster's help again. The young hunter pleads, explaining he has personal reasons for needing to clear the dungeon, and the pink-haired mage quietly agrees. The pink-haired mage soberly reminds him that entering a boss room is a point of no return, and they should report to the association first. Taehyun cuts in, calmly stating he's fine with proceeding. Surprising the party, Taehyun explains that, as a party member here to investigate, continuing the raid is the most logical path to his goal. He concludes that he needs to enter the boss room for his investigation anyway. The tank bows deeply, gratefully and shamelessly accepting Taehyun's powerful assistance. When the tank suggests Taehyun should lead, Taehyun glances at Junseo and tells him not to worry. Taking the lead with a lantern, Taehyun confidently tells the rest of the party to follow him. The group follows Taehyun's light, proceeding cautiously through the dark, web-strewn cavern. Arriving at a massive stone door, the tank announces they've reached the boss room and begins a final briefing. He identifies the dungeon's boss as the Legion Queen Spider, a creature with a D+ danger level. A menacing view shows the massive Queen Spider, surrounded by her brood and egg sacs in the darkness. The tank explains that her combat ability is low, as she is primarily a breeder of Legion spiders. He pushes against the door, cautioning that their intel is old, and they don't know what's truly waiting for them. With a grunt of effort, the tank heaves the heavy boss room doors open. The party enters the dark boss chamber, with the pink-haired mage's glowing staff illuminating the way. Taehyun scans the room, noting that he doesn't sense anything out of the ordinary. Suddenly, a hunter yells for everyone to prepare as they all take defensive stances. They look up in shock as the monstrous silhouette of the Queen Spider and her minions looms over them. The tank sighs in relief, confirming it's the same Queen Spider from the briefing. The pink-haired mage declares she'll attack first, summoning a ball of crackling lightning. She launches the powerful lightning orb straight at the cluster of spiders. A massive blast of electricity engulfs the boss and her minions. The pink-haired mage smiles, pleased with her powerful opening strike. The party stands in the now quiet, vast cavern, surrounded by dissipating motes of blue energy. The tank stares in disbelief, shocked that the boss is already dead, and realizing something is terribly wrong. Panicked, he orders an immediate retreat, but it's too late. A strange, distorting energy washes over the party, freezing them in place. The hunter's eyes widen in terror, questioning the bizarre phenomenon. Thump. The supposedly dead Queen Spider's body is suddenly impaled from within by a sharp, purple blade. An unearthly shriek echoes through the cavern. A humanoid figure bursts from the spider's husk, revealing herself to be Arachne, a cunning B+ ranked queen who empowers her legion. Arachne flashes a wicked smile filled with razor-sharp teeth. The party members are frozen in absolute terror at the sight of the true boss. Arachne unleashes a powerful wave of dark red energy. Revealing 6 glowing eyes, the monstrous queen stands triumphantly amidst a fiery aura. Taehyun, now in his masked combat gear, leaps forward with his flaming sword to intercept Arachne's devastating attack. Taehyun faces the B-ranked Arachne, realizing that sloppy swordsmanship will be useless against such a foe. Gripping his sword, he resolves to pour all his power into a single, decisive blow. With a furious shriek, Arachne prepares to meet his attack head-on. Taehyun lunges, his flaming sword arcing through the air in a powerful slash. To his shock, his blade shatters on impact, and he curses his broken weapon. He lands heavily, lamenting that because his sword broke, he failed to deliver a fatal strike. Suddenly, a blade of pure glowing light appears, plunged into the ground before Taehyun. Jeonsa steps forward, wreathed in blue energy, as the stunned party members watch from behind. Unfazed, Arachne flashes a menacing, multi-eyed grin. With a confident smirk, Junseo extends a glowing hand, ready to intervene. The blue glow on his hand flickers, and he wonders if he has already exhausted his mana. Reaching into his pocket for a potion, he reflects on how incredible it is that he lasted this long on his mana levels. He downs a mana potion, noting his self-imposed limit of 1 bottle per day. Tossing the empty vial aside, he recalls the warning that exceeding his limit could lead to addiction. Re-energized, Junseo feels the potion's powerful effects coursing through him. Taehan watches, realizing with frustration that he was too late to act. He stabs his broken sword into the ground, deciding to use it to buy some time. Junseo calmly tells Toman not to worry, promising to make him a proper weapon. Junseo analyzes the situation, recalling that Arachne is a B-ranked monster, whereas the expected boss was a C-ranked monarch spider. The blue-haired tank expresses relief that Taehyun is with them, admitting it would be difficult to face Arachne with their current party. He continues his grim assessment, noting that once a monster hits B-rank, the danger level changes completely. A flash of energy signals the start of a ferocious clash. Taehyun desperately parries a flurry of swift, powerful attacks from Arachne's appendages. Arachne looms over the battle, her demonic form radiating an aura of confident power. With intense focus, Taehyun deflects another blow with what's left of his sword. Junseo calculates that Arachne's fighting power is equal to 5 A-ranked hunters, and that's before even considering her special ability. Deciding they can't just rely on Taehyun, Junseo turns to the frozen party members and orders them to get up. He tells them they should be able to move now, as Arachne's killing intent has shifted to a new target. Shaken, the blue-haired tank rises to his feet and demands to know who Junseo is. The party stares at Junseo's back as the tank questions why someone so talented is a mere helper. And the pink-haired mage asks if he came with Taehyun. Before answering, Junseo thinks to himself that there's something they need to deal with first: the remaining spider minions. He unleashes his blue energy, beginning the process of creation. A glowing blue broadsword materializes before the astonished young hunter. As a shield and staff appear for the others, Junseo challenges them. Will they fight or run? He finishes his ultimatum, asking if they will simply wait outside until the situation is resolved. With a confident smile, Junseo offers them the power to choose their fate. The newly created sword effortlessly slices through the lesser spiders. The young hunter swings his new weapon, unleashing a powerful arc of light that carves through the monsters. He stares at the sword in his hands, muttering in disbelief at its incredible power. Gripping the hilt, he marvels that he has never held a weapon of this quality before. Empowered and confident, he cuts down spider after spider with ease. Looking at the carnage, he wonders if killing monsters was always this easy, feeling like he's cutting through paper. The blue-haired tank watches his party members' newfound strength with a look of intense determination. Filled with excitement, the pink-haired mage unleashes a torrent of lightning from her new staff. She raises her weapon high, smiling triumphantly as crackling blue energy surrounds her. With a mighty, the tank observes her, noting that while only her weapon has changed, the power of her skill has magnified several-fold. He looks at the annihilated spiders, amazed that a weapon summoned on the spot could be so effective. Junseo watches the newly empowered party with a look of quiet satisfaction. Taehyun, spattered in green blood, catches his breath, his expression hardened but ready. Taehyun grimly acknowledges the difficulty of buying time against a B-ranked monster, while Arachne flashes a vicious, toothy grin. With a ferocious shriek, Arachne lunges forward in a terrifying high-speed assault. Holding his broken, flaming blade, Taehyun realizes he must end the fight as quickly as possible. Arachne's face contorts in rage, green blood dripping from her eyes as she presses her attack. Wreathed in fire, Taehyun narrowly dodges Arachne's powerful strikes. Arachne unleashes a devastatingly fast blow, her sharp appendage glowing with red energy. A massive explosion of light erupts as Taehyun's fiery power clashes with Arachne's attack. Thump! Arachne's severed arm, still clutching a weapon, hits the ground, its core still glowing ominously. Examining his broken sword, Taehyun notes with some relief that the weapon is holding up better than he'd expected. Suddenly, his attention is drawn to a new threat as a horde of smaller spiders emerges from the shadows. The blue-haired tank panics, wondering where the spiders came from and realizing they're all rushing toward the guildmaster. Taehyun yells for everyone to get back, questioning if Arachne had hidden these spiders all along. As things grow more complicated, Taehyun realizes that Arachne's special ability is activating. A narration explains that Arachne sacrifices the spider monsters, absorbing them to transfer their life force to herself. With her 6 eyes glowing, Arachne grins menacingly as the dark implications of her power become clear. In a flash of dark energy, Arachne's severed arm regenerates completely. The narrator reveals the grim truth. Arachne will revive endlessly, unless every last one of her minions is destroyed. Realizing this, Taehyun decides he must raise his firepower and end everything in a single, overwhelming attack. Taehyun curses, admitting Arachne is even more amazing than he thought, while Junseo simply smiles, impressed. Holding a bright blue energy in his hand, Junseo muses that he never expected Taehyun to actually destroy a sword he'd made, even one created with his barely remaining mana. With a surge of power, Junseo manifests a massive, glowing blue two-handed broadsword for Taehyun. Junseo explains that while it's not Taehyun's usual style, it's the most durable weapon he can create at the moment. Taehyun firmly grips the hilt of the powerful new weapon. With the new sword in hand, he feels a surge of confidence, believing he can now defeat them all in one go. He plants the sword before him, and a complex web of fiery energy spreads across the battlefield. Taehyun smirks, admitting he's unfamiliar with a two-handed sword, but it feels fitting for the current situation. Channeling his power into the blade, he unleashes a devastating skill, Explode. His eyes glowing with fiery resolve, Taehyun prepares to unleash his full power. A colossal wave of fire surges from his sword, engulfing Arachne in its destructive path. Arachne's multiple eyes widen in shock as the inferno consumes her. The entire cavern is filled with the blinding, incinerating force of Taehyun's attack. Watching the fiery aftermath, Junseo identifies the attack as Explode, a berserker's innate skill. Junseo watches the distant silhouette of Taehyun amidst the flames, thinking this is likely the first time Yoon Taehyun has ever used the skill properly. The narration explains that in exchange for overwhelming power, the skill causes the user to lose their rationality as Taehyun writhes in the fiery energy. Now masked, Taehyun stands with the massive, green-splattered sword, his fiery aura still burning. He reflects on the risk he took, knowing how hard it would have been to deal with the consequences if this new weapon had shattered too. Surrounded by flames, his glowing eyes convey a cold, determined focus. Wreathed in a powerful fiery aura, Taehyun stands ready for the next move, his new weapon held firmly. He unleashes another massive burst of explosive fire, his power radiating outwards. Taehyun becomes a blur of motion, leaping through the very explosion he created to press his assault. The massive sword, now stained with green monster blood, rests on the ground after the devastating attack. Huff! Taehyun pants, his fiery aura dissipating, as he reflects that releasing all his power was necessary to avoid losing his sanity. Gripping the sword, he thinks that this is only the second time he has ever been able to use his skill correctly. He looks back with a worried expression, realizing he was wrong about something. Looking at Junseo, Taehyun understands that he is no ordinary awakened, and that the world's attention will be on him once his ability is known. A single drop of sweat rolls down Taehyun's cheek as he quietly contemplates this startling revelation. Taehyun and Junseo stand before the smoldering, shattered corpse of Arachne, the battle finally over. Junseo remarks on the overwhelming amount of mana radiating from the corpse, noting its power is incomparable to other air bosses. Taehyun confirms that she is definitively dead, as all her remnants have been destroyed, preventing her revival. Junseo says, okay, while thinking to himself that even a high-grade hunter like Taehyun cannot sense the unique mana he is observing from a glowing purple core on the corpse. As purple mana radiates from Arachne's corpse, Junseo watches with a calm, analytical expression. A system window announces the passive skill Mana Absorption, revealing he is accumulating polluted mana from the dungeon. He unlocks the active skill Demonic Weapon Production, allowing him to create demonic weapons, and wonders what they are. He imagines fearsome demonic warriors, unable to fathom what a weapon of the demonic realm could be. Thoughtfully, Junseo accepts that while there are no mana-related rewards, the new skill is acceptable. His mana absorption skill window shows his current mana has dropped to 50/100ths after the skill acquisition. Junseo notes that, thanks to Arachne, he's halfway to his next reward and expects more to come. Taehyun, now wearing a baseball cap, steps forward with an outstretched hand, saying he has something to say. He admits to Junseo that repeatedly asking him to join the guild was impolite, regardless of his duties as guildmaster. With a bow of his head, Taehyun offers Junseo a sincere and formal apology. Stunned, The blue-haired tank watches from afar, wondering what he is witnessing. He can't believe his eyes, questioning why the guildmaster is bowing to a mere D-ranked helper. He quickly reasons that the helper must be a hidden talent of the Overkill Guild, not a normal person. Elsewhere, the young hunter exhales in relief, admitting the fight was incredibly tough. He and the pink-haired mage report to their party leader, confirming no monster remnants are left, assuming Arachne absorbed them all. The young hunter gushes over the power of his new weapon, amazed at how effortlessly it cut through monsters. The pink-haired mage agrees, questioning who could make such weapons, as the blue-haired tank begins to usher them away. Confused by their leader's haste, the two protest, wanting to thank the guildmaster and Junzio first. The blue-haired tank urgently pushes them along, telling them to leave the disgusting place, much to their annoyance. The party members conclude that the helper must be connected to the Overkill Guild and decide it's best to leave and not interfere. Taehyun observes that Junzio's willingness to reveal his power so easily is unusual for someone from a major guild. He continues his apology, stating a guildmaster shouldn't bow so easily, even to a hired helper. Addressing him as Shin Junzeo, Taehyun promises the Overkill Guild will no longer bother or follow him. However, with a slight smile, Taehyun extends his hand and clarifies that this doesn't mean he's giving up. Taehyun proposes a contract, leaving Junzeo looking on with a surprised and slightly flustered expression. With a confident smile and an offered hand, Taehyun assures him he'll like the conditions. The scene shifts to the gleaming, modern skyscrapers of the Overkill Guild headquarters. Inside a luxurious office, a red-haired woman greets Junzeo, saying it's nice to see him again. She introduces herself as Min Hee-soo, a secretary for the Overkill Guild, in charge of the contract proceedings. Junzeo thanks her, thinking to himself that while the guildmaster promised to contact him, he didn't expect it so soon. As he reflects on the quick turnaround, Min Hee-soo explains that the guildmaster ordered her to proceed as fast as possible. Junzeo wonders how deep inside the building they are, and Min Hee-soo clarifies it's a special reception room. She reassures him about the high security, explaining that 2 guards stand watch and he needn't worry about information leaks. With a swift motion, she slides a contract across the table, explaining it contains the conditions Taehyun mentioned. As Junzeo reviews the document, Min Hee-soo informs him that the contract terms are negotiable if he wishes. He thinks to himself that the terms are exactly as promised, and seeing them in writing makes it all feel more real. Decided, Junzeo pushes the contract forward, declaring there are no issues and they can proceed. In a flashback, Taehyun gestures to the dissolving monster remains, questioning Junzeo's request for support. Taehyun clarifies the offer of unofficial support, as Junzeo speculates on his reasons for avoiding guilds. Taehyun offers a secret supply of anything Junzeo needs: gear, ingredients, or even gate rights. Taehyun stresses it's not forced, but Junzeo challenges him, asking what happens if he just takes the support without helping. Taehyun explains the contract's true purpose is to form an alliance, blocking other guilds, with commissions serving as a token of sincerity. As the flashback ends, Taehyun concludes the offer and turns to leave. Suddenly, 2 men in suits from the Hunter Association's investigation team arrive, checking on the guildmaster's safety. Taehyun tells Junzeo they must go, promising to hear his answer outside. Walking away, Taehyun expresses hope for a positive response but tells Junzeo not to feel pressured. He glances back with a smile, declaring that Junzeo's ability is more valuable to him than any formal arrangement. Back in the present, Junzeo reflects on his original plan to build a relationship with Overkill without joining. With a decisive tap on the table, Junzeo asks when he can receive the promised support. Min Hee-soo smiles, replying that he can start immediately and just needs to tell her what he wants. Min Hee-soo offers Junzeo a present, explaining she heard he found a useful item in Arachne's room. With a slight smile, Junzeo accepts the gift and thanks her before starting to say something more. He presents her with a clipboard, stating it's the list of support materials he'd like for now. As Min Hee-soo accepts the list, Junzeo asks how soon he can expect to receive the materials. Min Hee-soo looks over the list, estimating it will take about a week, but trails off with a however. She voices her concern that the materials on the list don't seem very useful for him, but Junzeo clarifies that he won't be the one using them. With his business concluded, Junzeo smiles and slings his backpack on, ready to depart. The scene shifts to a large, modern building under a bright blue sky, the headquarters of a different organization. Looking at his phone, which reads 2:47, Junso thinks to himself that he thought she would have arrived by now. A blonde woman with glasses rests at a desk while, in a separate panel, Junso walks away. Junso smiles with satisfaction, thinking to himself that she's finally here. A blonde woman with glasses and a ponytail wearing an apron stands looking nervous and uncertain. In a flashback, a brilliant golden arrow of energy soars through a dark forest. Kapow! The arrow strikes a goblin-like creature in the chest, causing a massive, fatal explosion of light. As the monster's obliterated body falls, an elegant boot steps into the clearing. A confident blonde archer in red and black attire stands with her bow, identified by narration as the hunter prodigy once called God Archer. The God Archer smiles, a picture of confidence and skill. The scene flashes back to the present, showing the blonde woman resting at a desk while Junso waits by a window. A man and a woman at a reception desk look up as someone nervously says, "Excuse me." The blonde woman with glasses, now identified as the speaker, requests access to a training use gate. The female receptionist smiles, offering to arrange a C-ranked training gate for her. Flustered, the blonde woman hastily corrects her, asking for a D-ranked one instead, much to her own embarrassment. Both receptionists are taken aback by the request for such a low-ranked gate. The male receptionist thinks to himself that her record shows she has very little gate experience. As he types, he muses that while he's seen low rankers quit, he's never encountered an A-ranker like this before. While watching the blonde woman sign the forms, the female receptionist thinks that she doesn't understand why, but she's certain this person will be demoted soon. Narration explains the origin of Awakened, as blue energy poured from cracks in the sky, granting mana to humanity. The more mana a person could hold, the better their abilities, prompting the association to begin analyzing everyone's mana levels. This led to the creation of the Awakened designation and a ranking system based on an individual's total mana. However, the narration states that ranks are not permanent and can be raised through acknowledged performance in dungeon raids. Back in the present, the blonde woman with glasses smiles and hands the completed paperwork to the receptionist. The receptionist offers to help with the application and asks if she has a partner, but the blonde woman nervously admits she doesn't. The receptionist explains that rules require groups of at least 2, so she'll have to be put on a partner recruitment list. The blonde woman looks crestfallen, questioning if she truly can't enter a gate by herself. The receptionist clarifies that soloing is possible with a specific license, which she is not registered for. She offers to sign her up for the required test, but the blonde woman anxiously declines, opting to wait instead. Startled, the blonde woman flinches as the receptionist suddenly reminds her that her first hunter qualification renewal is in 1 month. An official-looking man explains that renewing an A-rank qualification requires either C-rank gate experience or passing the A-rank test. He concludes that for her, it will likely have to be the test, and that she should expect a message about it soon. The receptionist wishes her good luck, and the blonde woman offers a small thank you as Junseo watches from a distance. Walking away, she sighs, thinking that even requesting a simple training gate is overly complicated. Overwhelmed by the crowd, she chastises herself for coming in person instead of just applying online. Stealing her nerves, she tells herself to get a grip, revealing her name as Hania and her resolve to avoid demotion. In a dark, gear-filled room, Hania kneels in her archer attire, believing she can start over if she just takes her time. Checking her phone, she's surprised to see a D-rank request has already come in, just as she'd hoped. Since she planned to go alone anyway, she decides it doesn't matter and quickly moves to accept the request. A crowd of hunters gathers before a swirling dark blue portal, ready to enter the gate. Hania, now in her archer gear, adjusts her gauntlet, admitting it feels awkward to wear it after so long. A man in a dark suit and sunglasses approaches from behind, addressing her as Hunter Hania, with Junseo standing nearby. Junseo strides forward with a confident smile, introducing himself as Shin Junseo, the support. Hania bows deeply in a flustered greeting, stammering her name to a slightly bemused Junseo. With a reassuring smile, Junseo tells the still-bowed Hania to go ahead and make the gate request. The narration explains that after continuous failed tests, Hania was one of the few awakened to be demoted, dropping to C rank. In a memory of her prime, the narration recounts how Hania earned the title God Archer after becoming a player and finding her hidden talent. Back in his own thoughts, Junso believes he knows her talent, one that can be discovered even without becoming a player. As they stand before the swirling gate, Junseo declares his intention to awaken Hania's talent today. The scene shifts to the verdant, sun-drenched forest landscape within the dungeon gate. Snarl. A close-up reveals the vicious, sharp-toothed maw of a goblin monster. A trio of goblin warriors, wielding an axe, bow, and club, charges through the woods. The goblins spot a faint glow from behind a bush, where Hania is hiding. Peeking out nervously, Hania wonders if her escorts have already left her alone. Looking at her gauntlet, she confirms the presence of monsters and feels relieved she came prepared with equipment. She glances at a device on her wrist, a mana sensor, which is flashing a red alert. Startled by a sound, she turns and offers a quick, nervous apology. Junseo kneels nearby, apologizing for startling her and asking if it's okay for him to handle the monsters alone. He sits down casually, assuring her he'll give her all the loot as compensation and that she needn't worry. With a friendly smile, Junseo offers to provide arrows if she finds herself in need of help. Hanja offers a quiet thank you and ventures into the woods, bow in hand. She finds a spot and takes aim, her expression focused as she draws her bow. Concentrating intently, she tells herself to stay calm. Shouting now, she releases her arrow, which transforms into a massive, piercing beam of light. Wham! The light arrow impales a goblin from behind, catching it completely by surprise. Another goblin recoils as the blast of energy strikes it. A third goblin is sent flying by the overwhelming force of the shot. As one goblin archer prepares to shoot, another is utterly annihilated by the radiant explosion. Two more goblins are violently thrown back by the expanding wave of pure energy. Watching from a distance, Junseo observes that Hanjia's raw, destructive power far exceeds that of a typical A-rank hunter. However, he notes that her power is useless if she can't aim, as another powerful shot veers off course and obliterates a tree. Hanjia mentally calculates her poor accuracy, noting a 1 in 3 hit rate and that she only has enough energy for 4 more volleys. Determined, she decides to end the fight in 2 shots and draws her bow once more. As she prepares to fire, a sudden noise makes her gasp in surprise. A goblin messenger raises a bugle to its lips and blows a loud call. Hanjia's eyes widen in alarm as she recognizes the sound of the bugle. She whirls around, quickly aiming her bow in a new direction as she anticipates an attack. Her mana-sensing device flashes frantically, signaling imminent danger. Looking around, she realizes with dread that she has been completely surrounded by monsters. Overwhelmed and panicking, she frantically tries to decide where to shoot as goblins close in from all sides. Just as the monsters lunge, Junseo appears in a flash, erecting a glowing blue barrier to protect her. Junseo stands calmly before her, his hand crackling with blue magical energy. Hanjia stares in disbelief, questioning how he can be a mere D-ranked maker, but he calmly confirms that he is. As his glowing barrier strains against the monster horde, Junseo explains he can't hold it alone and needs her help. In a panic, she asks what she's supposed to do. Junseo points toward a cluster of monsters in the distance, instructing her to fire an arrow there with all her remaining strength. Unsure of his plan but deciding to trust him, Hanjia agrees and draws her bow, pouring all her power into a single, glowing arrow. She releases the shot, sending a brilliant beam of energy streaking over the forest. I shot it. Now what? She asks frantically, but Junseo simply grabs her arm. He tells her the shot opened a path, and now they have to run, much to her utter shock. With no time to argue, they both sprint away as the entire goblin horde gives chase. After a desperate run, they arrive at the edge of a high cliff, with Hanjia panting for breath while Junseo remains composed. The blonde archer leans over, exhausted but relieved, exclaiming that they survived. Her relief turns to confusion as she wonders where they are and if they've truly escaped the goblins. Holding hands, she follows the black-haired man, thinking that it felt less like they escaped, and more like the goblins couldn't follow them, making her wonder what lies ahead. Overwhelmed by the turn of events, the blonde archer feels her mind racing. As the black-haired man calmly states they need to leave, she tries to end their partnership and offer him his promised compensation. He explains that the goblins are on high alert nearby, making it too dangerous for them to leave right now. To make matters worse, he reveals they dropped their rescue flare while running, leaving them no choice but to wait. The woman panics, asking how long they'll be stuck waiting. After he tells her half a day, she screams in utter disbelief and frustration. The black-haired man internally admits that was a lie, as the woman's spirit seems to leave her body in despair. He privately reasons that the goblins lack coordination and will disperse in 30 minutes at most. Smirking, He thinks to himself that the current Hania would believe anything he says. His thoughts shift as he considers the real problem. He needs to find a way to get Hania to go into the nearby cave with him. He doubts she will agree, watching as she sprints away from the cave in terror. Stopping abruptly before him, Hania stammers an apology. She takes the blame, saying this is all her fault for not fighting the goblins properly. She continues to apologize profusely for her decision to go out alone, while he listens quietly. Gripping her bow tightly, she berates herself, feeling ashamed of her performance in a D-rank dungeon. Weeping, she thinks she never should have entered a dungeon in the first place. The black-haired man firmly tells her to get a grip and asks her to fulfill one of his requests. Stunned, Hania asks about his request as he reminds her they have plenty of time. He smiles, suggesting that they should talk for a while. The two venture into a deep, dark cave illuminated by glowing blue crystals. Inside the glowing cavern, Hania nervously asks him if he truly needs her help. She confesses that while she's an A rank, she has little dungeon experience and doesn't understand what he's talking about. He acknowledges it's her first time in a training gate, explaining the information isn't widely known. As they walk deeper, he explains this cave is the habitat of an elite monster which takes the place of a boss. He states that he must defeat this monster for personal reasons, but has been unable to even attempt it until now. Hania is touched, realizing she's the first person to accept him into their party. Thinking she might be making things awkward, she looks to the black-haired man, who watches her expectantly. Finding her resolve, she confidently agrees to help him, if he's okay with her. She steels herself, thinking it's the right thing to do since Junso SSI saved her from a dangerous situation. With renewed determination, she declares that she understands the pain of not being able to join a party. A powerful red aura flares up as she resolves to help him. They stand together, ready for battle, as his light source illuminates the darkness ahead. An enormous masked goblin wielding a spiked club emerges from the shadows, the elite monster. Hania tells Junseo to step aside, asserting that it's just a D-ranked monster after all. She charges her bow with blue energy, believing that one solid hit is all they'll need. Believing her shot has found its mark, she shouts in triumph. Crack! The elite monster effortlessly swats her glowing arrow aside with its club. Hania stares in disbelief, shocked that the monster blocked her attack. Realizing her mistake, she knows she must use her maximum power for the next shot. She draws her bow, her arrow crackling with energy, but her hands tremble with hesitation. She panics, desperately urging herself to shoot as her resolve falters. Her face is a mask of fear as she freezes, unable to release the arrow. The monstrous goblin charges directly toward the frozen pair. Hania gasps in shock as she is suddenly pulled backward. Junseo yanks her out of the way just as the monster's attack would have landed. In a painful memory, a massive green monster brutally strikes down a hunter as Hania watches from below. The scene focuses on the dungeon boss, a hulking, masked creature wielding a terrifyingly large spiked club. Back in the present, Hania collapses in fear, calling out Junseo's name as she stares into the darkness of the cave. Another memory shows a defeated Hania kneeling on a cobblestone street in the pouring rain. A past party member with dark hair furiously accuses Hania of nearly killing her with a badly aimed arrow. Hania stammers an apology, but the woman scoffs, asking if her A-rank appraisal makes her think she's special while she's just making excuses. The whispers of other hunters haunt her, calling her a failed A-rank who almost killed someone, can't handle weak monsters, and is a waste of talent. Standing alone inside a phantom outline of the association building, a thought wonders why she bothers being a hunter at all. Returning to the present, she panics, thinking she should have quit long ago, and now fears she's put Junseo in danger. The monstrous masked boss looms over Hania, ready to strike. Junseo sighs that acting isn't his thing, as a glowing blue whip of energy deflects the monster's club. Hania stares in shock as Junseo appears, calmly telling her to follow his instructions if she wants to win. Junseo's eyes glow with a grid-like pattern as he thinks that he's set the stage for his ability to activate. As the monster stumbles, Junseo yells for Hania to look closely at the beast and shoot it with all her power. As Junseo promises to block the monster, Hania trembles, feeling a strange new sensation as all her senses begin to bristle. Though she finds the feeling uncomfortable, she keeps her focus on the monster before her. Her eye suddenly glows gold as she realizes with a jolt, "I see it!" Drawing her bow, she feels a new clarity, thinking that she can now see exactly where she needs to aim. A targeting reticle appears in her glowing golden eye as she focuses with absolute precision. "I'll end it in one go," she vows, pulling back her bowstring as it overflows with brilliant energy. A massive sphere of golden light streaks across the cavern toward its target. The masked boss looks up in alarm, its glowing white eyes wide with shock. Junseo breathes a sigh of relief, thinking that the ability activated properly despite its strict conditions. The golden energy shot collides directly with the monster's spiked club. A colossal explosion of light and power erupts, completely vaporizing the boss from existence. Junseo smiles, surrounded by a faint golden aura, and thinks that his plan was pretty useful. Bathed in the residual golden light, Hania looks on in absolute breathless awe. The remains of the monster's arm and shattered club clatter to the ground. Hania catches her breath, exhausted but victorious after her incredible display of power. In a daze, she thinks that this new feeling will be unfamiliar. Junseo reflects that while his method was extreme, her amplified senses will take getting used to. He calmly stands before Hania, extending his hand in a gesture of support. Confused and wary, Hania demands to know who he is, how he predicted everything, and what he meant by awaken. She stands firm, demanding he stop changing the subject and answer her questions. Suddenly, her eyes go blank as her expression becomes eerily vacant and intense. Clutching her head in pain, Hania collapses forward as Junseo looks on. Junseo catches the unconscious Hania, carrying her on his back, while lamenting how hard it is to make colleagues. Looking at her resting peacefully, he thinks that at least he accomplished one thing. Later, Hania sits by a cliff, regretting her aggressive behavior and feeling like she wasn't herself. As Junseo approaches, she turns and apologizes profusely for her suspicion and for fainting. Junseo sighs, looking weary but tells her it's really okay. Drawn as a tiny, sad chibi, Hania continues to apologize while a chibi Junseo thinks it's been 30 minutes of this. Changing the subject, Junseo asks Hania to return the necklace he gave her. Surprised, she quickly agrees and begins to search for the item. She nervously hands him the red, faceted stone on a cord. Junseo examines the necklace, noting that its color has changed, confirming that she definitely used its power. The item is identified as Meteoric Sensation, a rare artifact from an A-rank dungeon. An explanation reveals its ability automatically activates when specific conditions are met, showing a hooded archer. The narration explains the item rapidly increases the user's senses as a beam of light strikes Junseo's head in a flashback. A blurred, high-speed image visualizes the effect of these dramatically heightened senses. As Hania gratefully returns the necklace, Junseo explains that its power only activates under the difficult condition of extreme emotion. In an internal monologue, Junseo reveals he intentionally created a situation of extreme fear to awaken Hania's abilities. A flashback shows the same necklace sold out in a high-end display case, as a man laments its rarity and high price. In an office, the man with brown hair thinks back, amazed that someone managed to acquire the rare item in just 2 days, simplifying his plans. He reflects that Hania only experienced an item-based awakening and will need more practice to reach her prime. Junseo advises Hania to switch from a short bow to a long bow to better utilize her power from a distance. He explains that fighting from further away will mean less direct contact with monsters, reducing her opportunities to get scared. Touched by his thoughtful advice, Hania looks on with a soft, appreciative expression. She turns to him and offers a sincere thank you. Confused, Junseo asks what for, and she clarifies it's for everything, including the pendant. Hania clutches her chest, recalling that just when she thought she would die, she felt a strange power from the pendant. She describes the sensation of time stopping as her eye glowed, giving her the confidence and clarity to hit any target. The feeling was so precise, she says, that it was as if a target was engraved directly onto the monsters. Fidgeting, Hania confesses that despite being an A rank, her D rank level personality made her grow to hate herself. But thanks to Junseo, she feels she has grown, proven her own capabilities, and finally feels excited about her potential. Flustered after her long speech, Hania sheepishly trails off, trying to remember her original point. Junseo smiles kindly, telling her it's difficult to train alone and offers his phone number for support. Overjoyed and blushing, Hania enthusiastically thanks him and offers her number in return, Junseo is momentarily taken aback by her eager response while holding his phone. As they exchange numbers, a voice thinks that he should contact Junseo after getting out of the dungeon. The scene transitions to the impressive modern skyscraper of the Hunter Association headquarters. A man with brown hair speaks on the phone, promising to make contact again after a briefing. On the other end of the call, Junseo smiles while walking down a street with a cheerful Han Jia behind him. The brown-haired man ends the call, expressing his relief that the item was useful and thanking the person on the other end. He stands alone in a spacious, modern room, looking thoughtfully out a large window. Knock, knock. A sharp rap on the door turns his head. A woman with red hair enters, informing him that the association president has returned, and they can now proceed. The brown-haired man and the red-haired woman walk together down a polished, sunlit hallway. The red-haired woman notes the situation is unusual, as they typically receive official documents instead of a personal summons. She continues, reasoning that since the president's past requests have been difficult, a personal summons must be for something major. Looking at a swirling purple S-rank gate, she speculates that another one must have appeared. The brown-haired man states confidently that it's fine because he has secured Junseo's help. He flashes back to a past battle, engulfed in flames, resolving to fight with the same intensity to ensure there is no danger. Smiling with satisfaction, he thinks that creating a connection with Shinjanseo was the right decision. The red-haired woman eyes him, thinking he's been in a much better mood since the Arachne dungeon raid, all because of that maker. She reflects that the guildmaster has been acting strangely ever since making the shocking offer of unlimited support to Junso. She finds his behavior odd, as he's a berserker class but is normally more cool-headed and calculated than anyone else. Wondering if Junseo is more capable than she assumed, she quickly dismisses the thought certain a D rank couldn't satisfy their guildmaster. Since the guildmaster rarely mentions him, she decides she must investigate this mysterious maker herself. They arrive at a set of double doors where a man in a gray suit stands, waiting for them. The waiting man formally greets the brown-haired man as Guildmaster Yoon Taehyun and asks if he has come alone. Yoon Taehyun looks puzzled, asking if there was someone else he was supposed to meet. The man clarifies that he heard 2 guildmasters were coming and invites Taehyun to enter first. Just then, the man spots another arrival and gestures warmly, saying, "Ah, there he is." A man with purple hair appears, shouting Yoon Taehyun's name in surprise, causing Taehyun and his companion to whip around in shock. The purple-haired man strolls forward with a cheerful wave, remarking that he's heard Taehyun has been very active lately. The red-haired woman glares, thinking that this newcomer is the one and only person. The purple-haired man grins menacingly, his fangs showing, and says that just seeing Taehyun here isn't enough for him. Her thought completes as Taehyun's expression turns cold. He's the only person who truly pisses the guildmaster off. Yoon Taehyun's jaw tightens as he stares back with a hardened, icy glare. The purple-haired man smirks at Yoon Taehyun, asking tauntingly who he is. He mockingly identifies Taehyun as the guild master of the idiotic Overkill Guild. Yoon Taehyun recognizes his rival, Kim Yi-hyuk, and braces himself for an annoying encounter. Yi-hyuk amends his insult, clarifying that while the guild members are capable, their master is the real idiot. Taehyun coolly dismisses him, stating he's too busy to deal with such ridiculous provocations. Yi-hyuk scoffs, sarcastically suggesting Taehyun must be busy touring low-ranked dungeons. The red-haired woman challenges Yi-hyuk's words, while he privately mocks Taehyun for seeking comfort from rookies. Yi-hyuk continues his goading, questioning if Taehyun went into a low-level dungeon for a raid or a rescue, causing the red-haired woman to stammer. Stepping protectively in front of his companion, Taehyun sternly tells Yi-hyuk to stop acting out. Taehyun ignores Yi-hyuk, commanding the attendant to open the door, and the man hastily agrees. Behind a closed door, a man with clasped hands notes that he can hear the sounds of arguing from inside his office. Association President Han Cheolman smiles wryly, thinking that the 2 guildmasters are as predictable as ever. The scene transitions to a panoramic view of the bustling modern city. President Han Cheolman sits sternly behind his desk, facing the 2 rival guildmasters, Taehyun and Yi-hyuk. The president gravely explains the situation. A new gate has appeared, but it is unconfirmed because its mana was impossible to measure. Yi-hyuk shouts in disbelief, while Taehyun remains silently composed. Taehyun calmly contemplates the oddity of an unmeasurable gate. A narration explains that a gate's rank is typically decided by first using a special instrument to measure its mana. A diagram shows that a gate's measured grade should correspond to the rank of the monsters within it. The second method is explained, analyzing reports from scouts sent in by the association. The president states this is different from a rank error, as no measurement was ever taken. Taehyun then asks if they tried sending scouts. He confirms they sent in a team 5 times, showing a confident group of hunters standing before the swirling gate. A shattered image reveals the same team, now bloodied and defeated, as the president declares that none of them returned. Thud, a foot is kicked up onto an armrest in a display of disrespect. Ye-hyuk leans back casually, aggressively questioning the president for the delay in information and accusing him of shifting blame. The president warns that monsters could burst out at any moment, as they don't know how long the gate's curtain will hold. He recalls that past incidents of this nature were always hellish to handle. The president delivers his order. He wants the Overkill and Shinhwa guilds to cooperate and raid the gate. He explains the situation is severe enough to warrant calling all 3 major guilds, but the Hyunmu guild is unavailable on foreign dispatch. The 2 rival guild masters sit tensely before the president, a wide gap separating them. Yoon Taehyun remains silent and contemplative, his finger resting on his cheek. To prevent public panic, the president announces he will only allow a small number of people with confirmed identities to participate. Kim Ye-hyuk flashes a devious smirk at the news. Yoon Taehyun responds with a cool, confident smile of his own. The scene shifts to the gleaming, modern exterior of the Shinhwa Guild building. An enraged Kim Ye-hyuk storms through his guild's lobby, yanking at his own collar. He barges past a surprised subordinate, ordering him to assemble a team of A rank or higher members, ready to depart in 2 days. Ye-hyuk fumes, suspecting Taehyun has a hidden advantage, and hating the sight of his rival's confident smile. Gritting his teeth, he vows to use this mission as a chance to crush Taehyun completely. Ye-hyuk furiously orders his subordinate to summon Kang Yo-an, threatening his career when reminded she's unaffiliated and will likely refuse. With a sinister grin, Ye-hyuk sees this as the perfect chance to scout the unaligned Kang Yo-an for his guild. A group of hunters assembles in a clearing, preparing to enter the mysterious swirling portal. The assembled members of the Overkill Guild, including Yoon Tae-hyun, stand ready for the raid. One of the members, Sung Jae-hee, complains impatiently about the other team's tardiness. The bald vice guild master calmly reassures him that the Shinhwa guild is always precisely on time. Jae-hee scoffs, crushing a can as he grumbles about the bad manners of prim bastards. Another member with a large gauntlet smacks Jae-hee on the head, scolding him to watch his language. Clutching his head, Jae-hee trembles and complains about the vice guild master's brutish strength. The vice guild master looms over Jae-hee with a terrifying aura, ominously repeating the word brutish. As the vice guild master chases a screaming Jae-hee, the man with the gauntlet remarks that, despite their antics, they have a good relationship and are reliable in battle. Yoon Tae-hyun thanks Junso for agreeing to come, admitting he was surprised he accepted the offer. Junseo smiles, explaining that he put the item Taehyun gave him to good use and has his honor to consider. Privately, Junseo thinks that isn't the only reason he came as the two stand together in a clearing. Ding! A blue system window appears, announcing a hidden quest and the opening of a story dungeon with a 168-hour time limit. Junseo recalls receiving this hidden quest 5 days ago, an exclusive opportunity for a small number of players. He resolves that, since he has a hidden quest before player selection has even begun, there is no reason to decline. A narrator explains that hidden quests, while incredibly difficult, offer amazing rewards and can even unlock new abilities for players. Junseo thinks that he never expected it to be this particular dungeon, as the man with the gauntlet calls out to him. The man with the gauntlet gravely apologizes to Junseo in advance for the rude behavior his guildmate is about to display. Meanwhile, Sung Jae-hee squirms as the vice guildmaster holds him in a headlock, complaining about the other team being early. Patting Jae-hee's back, the vice guildmaster apologizes, explaining that he had a lot of work to do. The Shinhwa guild arrives, led by a confident Kim Ye-hyuk and his 2 companions. Kim Ye-hyuk smirks, taunting the Overkill guild for having so much free time because they only tore low-ranking gates. The vice guildmaster places a hand on a trembling Jae-hee's shoulder, advising him to ignore Ye-hyuk. As Jae-hee starts to retort, the vice guildmaster swiftly covers his mouth, repeating his command to ignore the rival guild. A narration explains the long-standing bad blood between the Overkill and Shinhwa guilds, represented by scales of justice. Junseo observes the tension, thinking the rivalry is fueled by constant media debate over which guild is stronger. The man with the gauntlet from the Overkill guild looks at his guildmaster with a puzzled expression. He shouts at Yoon Tae-hyun in disbelief, gesturing toward Junso and demanding to know if this is his hidden card. Continuing his tirade, the gauntlet wearer mocks Taehyun's confidence and Junseo's casual clothes, while Junseo looks on unbothered. From the opposing side, Kim Yi-yuk sighs, commenting that they are all going too far. Yehak explodes in anger, questioning if they think raiding a dungeon is a joke, and accusing them of wanting to be carried. The blonde woman from the Shinhwa Guild playfully chides her guildmaster to calm down, adding that they have a new member too. A mysterious woman with dark hair and glowing eyes coolly asks Kim Yi-yuk if he hadn't just claimed to be short on time. The woman with greenish-brown hair from the Overkill Guild states that they don't have time to argue and should get going. Sung Jae-hee screams in shock, recognizing the mysterious woman as Kang Yoron and questioning the insane party lineup. A narrator identifies the S-rank members of the Shinhwa Guild, Elemental Master Kang Yoron, and Sorcerer Kim Yi-hyuk. The narration concludes by naming their own guildmaster, Yoon Taeyeon, as Jae-hee marvels at the all-star lineup, except for the unknown Junseo. Sung Jae-hee beams, convinced the raid will be a piece of cake and that he will happily get carried by the powerful members. Junso watches them, thinking grimly that it won't be so easy as this is a dungeon that was failed in his previous life. He remembers that of the 8 original party members, only Yuan Taehyun survived the last attempt, and only by using a trespass skill. A document reveals that the incident involving Kim Yi-hyuk resulted in 7 high-ranked awakened being declared missing. Junseo knows that information about the dungeon is non-existent and feels he cannot guarantee their victory this time. Inside the dungeon, a doll-like monster with glowing red eyes peeks from behind a corner, uttering, "What the?" In a grand hall, a voice confidently thinks that this is going to be incredibly easy. Kim Yi-yuk unleashes a powerful blast of energy, effortlessly destroying a doll monster as the party watches. The party steps through the portal into a magnificent mansion, prompting Jae-hee to exclaim in awe before Taehyun quiets him. Suddenly, the Vice Guild Master whirls around with a start, noticing something wrong with the portal. With a resounding slam, the portal vanishes, sealing the entrance and trapping the entire party inside the mansion. After confirming the door won't open, the Vice Guild Master declares they'll break it by force, with Jae-hee eagerly cheering him on. The Vice Guild Master, the Gauntlet Wearer, and an enthusiastic Jae-hee charge the door together on the count of 3. When their combined assault fails, Kim Yi-hyuk steps forward in annoyance, telling the others to move so he can handle it. Kim Yi-hyuk gathers his power, preparing to blast the resilient door with a powerful spell. Before he can attack, a swarm of doll-like maids rushes out from the sides, descending upon the party. "What are these things?" Kim Yi-hyuk shouts, unleashing a wave of destructive energy that tears through the attacking dolls. From the shadows, an unseen entity sneers, "How dare these scrubs?" The party watches as Kim Yi-hyuk's powerful spell obliterates another doll monster with ease. His blonde companion calls out to him about his skill, but he dismisses her concern, saying he won't waste his power on small fries. The blonde woman screams a warning to her guildmaster as the destroyed dolls begin to glow with purple energy, resurrecting themselves. Kim Yi-hyuk smirks confidently, crossing his arms and noting that a resurrection ability is the level of challenge he expected. The man with the gauntlet unleashes a powerful skill, manifesting giant crystalline fists as he prepares to show his true power. The doll-like maids recoil in shock, their forms beginning to shatter under the immense pressure of the assault. A rush of blue energy surrounds Junseo, hinting at his own hidden power. Pao Myeongun's massive crystalline fist smashes through a doll monster with overwhelming force. Bang, the Vice Guildmaster and the woman with the gun join the fray, unleashing a coordinated volley of attacks. With a fiery flourish, Yoon Taehyun cuts down another doll with his blazing spear. Standing back, the blue-haired woman asks Junso why he isn't fighting, to which he calmly explains he's a production-based support. The blue-haired woman thinks to herself that she has no desire to try hard for a party like this. Yoon Taehyun unleashes his flaming sword, thinking he was excited to fight alongside Korea's strongest. As his flames engulf a doll, he realizes his attacks are only for show and aren't actually killing the monsters. The blue-haired woman expresses her regret to Junso, wishing she had rejected the invitation to this seemingly futile raid. Junseo senses something is wrong, noting that the polluted mana emanating from the monsters is in an unnatural state. He notices glowing purple threads controlling the dolls and wonders about their origin. Junseo's gaze drifts upward, following the mysterious threads. He discovers the threads all connect to a single glowing object on the ceiling, realizing it's the source of their power. Junseo considers destroying the object, but hesitates, not wanting to reveal his own skills just yet. Deciding it's worth the risk, he figures he can just use rental pay to compensate for any revealed abilities. As Junso watches, the blue-haired woman conjures a large ice crystal from the ground. Junseo questions why she's wasting mana on bugs instead of attacking the source on the ceiling. Reminding him of her earlier statement, the blue-haired woman conjures a glowing butterfly with a flick of her finger. "I only kill what I want to kill," she declares, as a brilliant yellow light explodes from her. "Bugs!" The woman with the gun approaches Junseo, stating she needs to check something and accusing him of being afraid of bugs. Annoyed, Junseo tells her to stop talking, while Kim Yi-hyuk watches from afar, thinking that he isn't meddling, but there might be a bug monster up there, as a spectral blue spider appears on a shield. Kim Yi-hyuk's expression darkens with annoyance as flames erupt around him. The spectral bug is instantly vaporized by a powerful attack. A massive fiery explosion from Kim Yi-hyuk engulfs the entire hall, wiping out the enemy. A doll maid turns sharply, caught off guard by the sudden intervention. Mayan Gun chokes a doll, angrily questioning why the woman with the gun is using her skills in his area. He pauses, confused, as the dolls in his grasp suddenly go limp. Yoon Taehyun looks over, also noticing that the doll monsters have stopped moving entirely. Mayan Gun declares that he was just getting warmed up, dismissing the monsters as mere small fries. Suddenly, the shattered pieces of the dolls begin to glow with a sinister purple energy, preparing to resurrect. Kneeling by the remains, Junseo discovers the source of their resurrection, realizing he only found it because he can see polluted mana. As a doll reassembles before him, he wonders if this hidden mechanic is why the raid failed in his past life. Standing over the defeated dolls, Yoon Taehyun declares the lobby clear, but suggests searching the first floor to be safe. The Vice Guildmaster agrees, announcing that he will take the lead for the search. As he leads the way down a hall, another group of doll maids silently awaits them. "Move!" Sung Jae-hee shouts, recklessly charging ahead of the group to be the first into battle. Mayan Gun intercepts an attack with a grin, clashing with a doll's defenses in a burst of energy. Junseo directs the woman with the gun, asking if she can shoot a specific shelf where he's sensed the polluted mana is gathered. Boom! The targeted shelf is obliterated by a powerful shot. As the party moves upstairs, Yoon Taehyun notes their progress, prompting Sung Jae-hee to grumble about him acting like the leader. The woman with the gun pulls Myeonggun, Jae-hee, and the Vice Guildmaster aside, taunting Yoon Taehyun with a sing-song. "Serves you right." Mayan-gun seethes, angry at being ignored by Taehyun and vowing to crush his pride during this raid. Myeonggun suddenly feels a strange sensation as the blonde woman from Shinhwa cheerfully grabs his arm, making him question his own stamina. Kim Yi-hyuk gives Junseo a nod to move on, while his blonde companion struggles up the stairs, complaining about the effort. Janso pauses before a closed door, feeling a need to investigate the room himself. He stands before a glowing purple magic circle on the floor, the source of the dungeon's corruption. Standing before a darkened doorway, Junseo senses a foul energy, identifying it as polluted mana. Elsewhere, the Vice Guildmaster struggles in a fierce battle, shouting that he's out of time to use his skills. A man with brown hair and a woman with pinkish brown hair fight desperately back-to-back against a chaotic onslaught. Yoon Taehyun parries a strike, realizing with alarm that they're fighting a high-rank invisible monster. The woman with the gun fights alongside the Vice Guildmaster, shouting to Taehyun that she can't see Junseo anywhere. A brilliant vortex of holy light tears through the darkness, pushing back the unseen threat. The battle subsides as Yoon Taehyun looks around in a panic, desperately asking where Junseo is gone. While someone calls his name, Junseo's hand pulses with a sinister purple energy he's absorbing. Kneeling alone, Junseo notes the battle is getting rougher, but he's finished absorbing the mana and must now rejoin his party. He approaches a hazy, mist-filled doorway leading up a set of stairs. At the foot of the stairs, Junseo stops short, wondering if the presence he feels is an enemy. Peeking from the top of the dark staircase is a small, doll-like girl with blonde hair. Junseo is stunned to see a little girl, who floats down the stairs toward him, clutching a small doll. He stares in disbelief, wondering what a young child is doing in a place like this. The girl's expression brightens into a wide, cheerful smile upon seeing him. She approaches him eagerly, asking if he's a hunter. Junseo reaches out, urgently asking the girl how she could possibly know he's a hunter. The girl smiles, explaining that her unnie downstairs told her a hunter would come and that she should leave with them. She asks if he is the hunter here to save her unnie, leaving Junseo to question who she means. Looking back toward a dark corner, the little girl points out a huddled figure, certain he's the one her unnie was waiting for. The girl rushes to the woman with pinkish-brown hair, trying to rouse her and announcing that her rescuer has arrived. Junseo observes the unresponsive woman, concluding that she's suffering from some form of mental damage. He calls out to the woman, introducing himself as being sent by the Hunter Association, which finally gets her attention. The woman stands and looks at Junseo and the little girl, asking if he was truly sent by the association. She collapses to her knees in relief, weeping and thanking him over and over. Taking a moment to compose herself, the woman prepares to explain what happened to her. She reveals that she was the dungeon's 4th scout, sent in to investigate after the first 3 disappeared. She recounts how the moment she entered, hordes of dolls rushed at her from every direction. Panicked, she tried to flee through the gate, but it slammed shut and trapped her inside. Junseo recognizes her story, thinking it's the exact same situation his own party faced. He asks the scout about the others, and she explains that she called out to them from the entrance, but they were surrounded by a purple aura and seemed to be unconscious or mindless. The scout explains that the other scouts suddenly attacked her, forcing her to flee, where she met the child and received her help. The little girl cheerfully confirms, exclaiming that she and her unnie played a lot together. Junseo turns his attention back to the mysterious child and asks for her name. The girl brightly introduces herself as Elizabeth, but says he can call her Beth. Beth turns away, asking if something is dangerous. A massive clash of blue and yellow energy erupts as the battle rages on elsewhere. A powerful slash of energy strikes an armored figure, revealing the party is still fighting. Yoon Tae-hyun is locked in combat, his blade deflecting the attack of a mysterious armored opponent. Tae-hyun's eyes narrow in concentration as he realizes their enemy's stealth is beginning to fail. A cloaked human-like monster with a glowing visor becomes visible, prompting someone to wonder what it is. As a scout ID card for Han Chol-sung appears, a party member gasps in shock. Yoon Tae-hyun reviews the scout's information, confirming the ID and face match the documents for a missing scout. The woman with the gun shouts to her guildmaster in alarm, recognizing the face as well. The vice guildmaster and the woman with the gun unleash attacks, but she screams for them to stop, yelling that they are the missing scouts. A possessed scout with glowing red eyes lunges forward, his attack a blur of motion. The party stands ready as Yoon Tae-hyun grimly states that they can't simply knock out their former comrades. Taehan lets out a cry of frustration, caught in an impossible situation. Myeongun, wreathed in blue energy, angrily realizes the stealthy enemies he was excited to fight are just the missing scouts. He clenches his armored fist, noticing their possessed forms have slowed down. "I'll kill them in one breath," he vows, charging his fist with immense power. Myeongun lunges forward, unleashing his devastating attack on the helpless scouts. An overhead view captures the chaos of the battle as the parties clash. Suddenly stopped, Myeongun stares in shock, a trickle of blood running from his nose as he yells, "What the?" The woman with the gun aims her weapon, angrily shouting at Kim Yi-yuk that he's insane and they must find a way to save their colleagues, not kill them. Kim Yi-yuk coldly dismisses her plea, stating that in the face of killing intent, the only choices are to kill or be killed. He declares that anyone showing hostility is dead, warning the woman with the gun that she is no exception. A possessed scout with glowing red eyes lunges forward to attack. As his attack is blocked by a burst of yellow energy, Kim Yi-yuk warns the woman with the gun that if she interferes again, he'll kill her first. "You fucking bastard," she snarls, as Kim Yi-yuk's powerful attack bears down on her. Yoon Tae-hyun intervenes, ordering them to stop and asking Kim Yi-yuk to listen to him. Using the blonde Shinhwa member as a shield, Kim Yi-hyuk scoffs that men are blind, and he will show them how. The blonde woman screams at him to block the incoming attack. Yoon Tae-han makes a deal, offering the entire raid's remuneration and funding to the Shinhwa Guild, which makes Kim Yi-hyuk pause. Bright energy crackles and explodes as the attacks continue to clash. Kim Yi-hyuk relents for now, but warns Tae-hyun with gritted teeth that he will kill him immediately for the slightest annoyance. Relieved to have bought some time, Yoon Tae-hyun thanks him as his sword begins to glow with power. As Yoon Tae-hyun raises his brilliantly glowing sword, a party member calls out to their guildmaster. Looking like a frightened child, the woman with the gun stammers an apology, horrified at what she's just done. Sighing, Yoon Tae-hyun tells her to worry about taking responsibility later and to focus on the fight. He steals his resolve, declaring they first need to find a way to save the possessed scouts. A woman with purple hair and red eyes gestures with glowing threads, telling her Appa that the dolls outside are terrifying. Beth appears within a massive construct of purple energy, explaining that the dolls are wrapped in threads and will keep attacking until they're gone. Junseo asks if the dolls can be saved, desperately wanting to turn his possessed colleagues back to normal. Beth explains that once the threads are gone, a device on the body must be stopped, but warns that forcefully removing the threads will cause the bodies to collapse. The blonde woman from Shinhwa smiles sweetly, asking if her explanation was helpful. Junseo's eye glows purple, intrigued by the friendly and precise explanation to his difficult question. Elsewhere, Maengun is caught in a brutal attack as a timer begins. In 20 seconds, the scouts' stealth will release, and they'll all be dead. The party desperately clashes with the scouts in a chaotic burst of energy, one member crying out in panic. The woman with the gun desperately calls for Kang Yuran to use her ice magic to stop their opponent's movements. The blue-haired Kang Yuran sternly warns someone not to cross the line, clearly angered by the situation as a countdown begins at 10. As the countdown hits 7, the party members fight frantically against the clock. The timer ticks down to 5 as Maengun charges through the chaos. The countdown hits 4, a blur of motion indicating the increasing speed of the battle. The timer hits 3, a red sound effect emphasizing the critical moment. The timer reaches 2, showing Maengun taking a hard blow. The final second, 1, hangs in the air before the strike. Crack a devastating punch, lands with concussive force. Maengun realizes his skill was nullified as the previous pain returns, while the blonde woman beside him looks on in despair. Holding Beth's hand, Junseo walks through the hall, thinking to himself that they almost failed to save them. Beth looks up, clutching her small pink and white doll. Junseo looks forward with a calm, knowing expression. A party member looks around frantically, shouting and asking where Junseo suddenly went. Junseo reappears with Beth, telling the party he was just checking something and not to worry, though Yoon Tae-hyun sternly reminds him not to act alone. The possessed scouts begin to shimmer and fade, preparing to use their stealth ability again. A party member shouts a warning to the guildmaster as the scouts vanish from sight. A brilliant beam of light slices through the hall. Yoon Tae-hyun leaps forward, shouting, "Stay still," as Junseo and Beth watch from behind. In a flash of light, Yoon Tae-hyun unleashes a powerful sweeping strike, cutting down the invisible scouts in their path. Kim Yi-hyuk is stunned, realizing that someone has just sped past him. Whoosh! The scene blurs as someone moves through the hall at incredible speed. Junseo realizes the threads of polluted mana allow him to perceive the invisible scout's forms. Yoon Tae-hyun swings his radiant sword, cutting down the newly visible threats as Junseo and Beth watch. Junseo reveals he can see the doll's weak points and instructs the others to target his marks precisely to avoid destroying the bodies. Yoon Tae-hyun acknowledges the plan with grim determination. A party member wonders if the flashing blue shards are the marks Junseo mentioned. Yoon Tae-hyun focuses his power, preparing to strike the marked weak points. With a burst of power, he unleashes his attack on the first target. He realizes with astonishment that the plan works and the invisible targets can be hit. The woman with the gun identifies the circular device at their center as the weak point and urges everyone to attack it. Her shot flies true, shattering the weak point with a brilliant explosion of light. The targeted scouts begin to break apart as their control devices are destroyed. Kim Yi-hyuk shouts in confusion, unable to understand why the scouts are suddenly collapsing. As Kim Yi-hyuk fumes in confusion, Junseo watches with a knowing smirk. Utterly bewildered by the sudden turn of events, a party member cries out in shock. TSK. A wounded Kim Yi-hyuk glares, surrounded by his equally confused guild members. Yoon Tae-hyun approaches Junseo, demanding to know what he discovered on the first floor. Junseo faces him with a calm, untroubled expression. He explains that he found a surviving scout who, though unable to join them, was able to explain the circumstances. Yoon Tae-hyun's gaze falls on Beth, questioning her presence. Junseo explains that the little girl, Beth, was the one who helped him find the survivor. After Junseo adds that her parents are trapped here, Kim Yi-hyuk eyes the girl with deep suspicion. A party member defends the child, but Kim Yi-hyuk remains unconvinced. He elaborates that the gate is under constant surveillance, making it impossible for an outsider to have entered. Grr. Yoon Tae-hyun tries to de-escalate, telling Kim Yi-hyuk not to jump to conclusions. Enraged, Kim Yi-hyuk's eye glows as he threatens to kill Yoon Tae-hyun's entire guild for questioning him. Yoon Tae-hyun's patience finally breaks, and he declares it's time to educate Kim Yi-hyuk for the sake of the raid. The Shinhwa guild members egg on the conflict, declaring their superiority and readiness to fight. The blonde woman taunts Junseo's party member about his guildmaster's chances, provoking a panicked and defensive reaction. The argument devolves into furious threats, with both sides confident their guildmaster will emerge victorious. With a furious challenge, the two guildmasters clash, unleashing devastating elemental attacks against each other. As the battle rages, Junseo watches with a sharp, calculating gaze. Kiahaha. Junseo feels the combatants' emotions intensifying unnaturally, his own eyes beginning to glow purple. A sinister voice whispers that it only gave their emotions a slight push, mocking how pathetically they fight. Beth reveals her true nature, thanking her appa for helping her get close enough to use her brainwashing skill on the invaders. Junseo realizes with horror that he was brainwashed from the moment he met her, mistaking a monster for a child. Damn it, I was late, he thinks, realizing he must act now before everyone else is brainwashed too. Thump. He takes a determined step forward into the chaos. Suddenly, he's pulled off his feet, tumbling into a dark, swirling abyss. He finds himself ensnared by glowing purple threads, realizing the corrupted mana has trapped him. He looks up to see Beth controlling the threads that bind everyone, understanding this is how she brainwashed them all. He now understands she used the mana to control their bodies and minds, lamenting that he fell for her lies. He strains against the magical bindings, his own power flaring in defiance. With a massive surge of purple energy, he shatters the mana threads, binding him and the others. The threads of control instantly vanish, releasing everyone from their hold. Freed from the influence, the fighters look around in a daze, wondering what just happened. Beth grins menacingly, noting with amusement that Junseo knows how to absorb the corrupted mana. Staggering to his feet, Junseo urgently warns everyone that the child is their enemy and must be attacked. With a jolt, the scene shifts, pulling back from the chaotic hall as purple energy warps the air. Whoosh. The energy from Junseo's warning erupts, stunning the combatants and filling the hall with blinding light. Playing the victim, Beth tearfully cries out that the others are bullying her. Behind her, two imposing, elegantly dressed dolls, a man and a woman, materialize from the purple miasma. Now transformed into a doll with purple hair, Kim Yi-hyuk screams in rage, vowing to kill them all. Pow, the transformed Kim Yi-hyuk lunges forward, unleashing a devastating punch. The puppet-like Kim Yi-hyuk attacks with bloodthirsty fury, his face a mask of rage. What are you doing, Kim Yi-hyuk? Yoon Tae-hyun yells in shock, as his guildmate in sunglasses watches grimly. Wreathed in corrupted purple mana, the dollified Kim Yi-hyuk stands ready, no longer in control of his actions. He lets out a monstrous roar, fully succumbing to the dark influence. Good job, Louis Appa, Beth coos, revealing the new name for her puppet. Junseo has a chilling realization. The corrupted mana he sensed from Kim Yi-hyuk's hand was a sign of this impending transformation. A new character with blonde hair reveals that his appa likes to hide behind the shy, asking slyly if anyone noticed. Kia ha ha ha. Beth laughs maniacally, reveling in the chaos of forcing teammates to fight and wondering what will happen now that one is a doll. Yoon Tae-hyun resolves to apprehend his guildmate, ordering his team to assist him as he charges forward. Click, of course, replies a man with dark hair and guns, a feral grin on his face. Bam! A powerful blast of energy slams into its target. A blonde woman, a member of Shinhwa Guild, looks shocked as she is forced to summon a massive blue energy shield to defend. A woman with short blonde hair explains this is Guildmaster Kim Yi-hyuk's life-saving skill, an impenetrable shield that activates automatically and will last for hours, as the blonde woman touches it in frustration. Beth dismisses her now useless appa, turning her attention to her two dolls and declaring they just need to deal with the remaining 3 opponents. Yoon Tae-hyun and his remaining party members stare at the daunting new foes with grim determination. Beth stands before a colossal, shadowy figure, hinting at a much greater power at her command. Junseo focuses his gaze, his expression hardening as he prepares for the next phase of the battle. He assesses the two dolls, Realizing their energy levels are on par with boss monsters from difficult dungeons, he concludes it's too dangerous to bypass the two guards, and that they must be faced head-on. As he watches Beth and her puppets, he can't shake the feeling that something is terribly wrong. He thinks this is somehow different from a simple, controlling-type monster, as Beth smiles with sinister intent. Junso addresses his teammates, Myeongun and Jae, preparing to give orders. He assigns targets, telling the others to handle the female doll while he takes on the male, urging them to end it quickly. The blue-haired woman and Jae affirm the order with a tense, "Yes, sir." The male doll lunges forward, its eyes glowing with purple light as it begins its attack. Roar Yoon Taehan ignites with fiery power, preparing to meet the assault with his own. Crack! A massive blue crystal suddenly forms, trapping the blonde woman from Shinhwa Guild inside. The blonde-haired youth who was hiding behind the doll now stands revealed, having trapped the woman in crystal while Junso watches. Junso recognizes the ability to turn people into dolls and wonders if it's a bug that's interfering with Kim Ye-uk's impenetrable defense. He deduces this must be the skill that dollified the hunters, but he still feels that something is strange about the situation. He recalls that Kim Ye-uk's transformation was instantaneous and, crucially, happened after he had absorbed the polluted mana from everyone else. He reasons that Beth had every opportunity to turn them all into dolls when they were bound by the mana threads earlier, yet she didn't, and he finds himself questioning why she would hold back. Bang Jae-hee unleashes a blinding volley of shots from his dual pistols. The female doll is engulfed in the radiant assault. The male doll is also struck by a brilliant energy attack. Beth watches the attacks land with a detached, almost satisfied smirk. Junso struggles to understand her motives, questioning if she's just toying with them, or if there's another reason she revealed herself. He remembers her contradictory actions, guiding him to the Lost Scout, and even revealing the weak points of the very dolls she now controls. He thinks that after gaining his trust, she showed her true colors, yet her actions don't align with someone who simply enjoys sowing conflict. A new thought strikes him. It's almost as if she's being forced to fight against her will. The male doll is hit by a powerful, crackling blue energy attack. A hand channels swirling blue energy, a spell ready to be unleashed. Jonseo drives his glowing blue hand forward, continuing his assault on the male doll. With glowing red eyes, Yoon Taehyun notes the doll's incredible durability, but hints that he has a plan. Wham! Yoon Taehyun smashes the male doll with a massive, fiery punch. He explains that the weapon Junzeo made allows him to control his power, channeling it into his sword for a massive explosion. Jaehav loads a glowing blue magazine into his pistol, thinking that it's unfortunate, but they made this for exactly these situations. The female doll calmly tells the male doll that he's been softened up enough now. Taking aim, Jae-hee prepares to fire a powerful enchanted bullet. The blaster-type shot erupts in a massive beam of energy, striking the female doll dead on. With his glowing pistol still aimed, Jae-hee flashes a sinister, fanged grin. An orb of fire explodes from within the female doll's chest, shattering her from the inside. The male doll is similarly engulfed in a roaring inferno. Yoon Taehyun's greatsword stands planted in the ground, still wreathed in roaring flames. Breathing hard, Yoon Taehyun admits things are trickier than he expected, but is surprised the dolls only used simple physical attacks. He muses that as a berserker, he can resist mental attacks, while in the distance, Beth stands alone atop a grand staircase. Surrounded by fire, Yoon Taehyun orders his guild to prepare and hold their positions, warning them to watch for mental attacks. As the two dolls burn and crumble, a voice announces that Mommy and Daddy, everyone, has been destroyed. Yoon Taehyun lunges forward, unleashing another powerful, fire-wreathed punch. Beth watches with a sinister, shadowed expression, clutching a small doll of herself as dark energy swirls. A monstrous, sharp-toothed grin emerges from the darkness, declaring the result perfect amid splatters of red. The small doll Beth was holding is sent flying through the air. As the man with sunglasses stares in shock, two copies of Jae-hee smile, remarking that they worried for nothing. The blue-haired woman and Myeongun find the anticlimactic end boring, with the woman remarking, "What the?" Junse, however, remains suspicious, hoping his assumptions are wrong, but feeling that something isn't right. Yoon Taehyun thinks that even if it's a monster, seeing a child's corpse is still an unpleasant sight. He turns to give an order for everyone to regroup. The next moment, his eyes widen in shock as a dark purple aura overtakes him. The narration reveals that the hunters, the man in sunglasses, Jae-hee, and a red-haired woman, froze not from magic, but from sheer shock. They were paralyzed by the sight of something unprecedented in a dungeon, as a dark, corrupted energy envelops Yoon Tae-hyun. As expected, a system window appears, revealing the main goal: defeat Elizabeth Bathory for the reward of demonic shackles of control. As the doll of Beth crumbles into dust, a voice thanks them, and a wave of red energy erupts. From the bloody remnants, a new presence reveals she was waiting for someone to destroy her mommy and daddy for her. She explains that her parents, the dolls, betrayed her and trapped her in that useless child's body. In a flash of dark power, Beth transforms into a winged blonde demoness, stretching luxuriously as she revels in finally feeling alive. The blue-haired woman rallies the others, telling them not to just stare and acknowledging their guildmaster is talented. But he definitely can't face this new monster alone as Yoon Tae-san prepares to fight. The newly transformed Beth smiles cruelly, calling the remaining fighters cute rat bastards. The blue-haired woman, the sunglasses-wearing man, and Jae-hee all recoil in utter shock and terror. Smirking, Beth decides it's time to enjoy a meal. Conjuring a skeletal phantom from blue light, the man with sunglasses is instantly bound and impaled. Barely able to call the situation absurd. Bleeding from her eyes, the blue-haired woman recognizes this as high-level absorption magic, shocked by how easily they are being suppressed. Overwhelmed, she wonders just how monstrous their foe is as Beth unleashes a torrent of golden energy. The golden light coalesces into a massive, swirling vortex of destructive power. Beth's voice speaks to a bloodied and bruised Yoon Tae-hyun, condescendingly admitting that he is quite strong. Her clawed hand hovers near his face as she muses that the fight might have been different if he could use his full power. Smirking, she declares that won't be happening now, and clenches her fist with a crushing force. Ugh. A spray of blood erupts from Yoon Tae-hyun's mouth as he's struck by an invisible force. A massive beam of energy violently shoots out from his body toward the ceiling. He stumbles back, bloodied and battered, but somehow still on his feet. Myeongun urgently asks Junseo what he means about percent and a berserker's output, confused by his line of questioning. Myeongun asks Junseo about adjusting his explosion output, explaining a berserker's body can't handle 100%, but Junseo admits he's still a novice with the skill. Yoon Tae-hyun recalls that Junseo used less than half his power against Arachne and has been holding back ever since. Junseo points out that even at partial power, his strongest sword broke, while Yoon Tae-hyun expresses doubt about unleashing a power level he's never attempted before. As Junseo offers to buy time, Yoon Tae-hyun cuts him off, accusingly asking if he wants to monopolize his abilities. Gathering purple energy in his hand, a bloody Junseo tells Yoon Tae-hyun that what he's asking is a ridiculous favor. Junseo feels a strange energy, not mana, and realizes it will create a continuous bond between them from now on. Surrounded by dark, crackling energy, Junseo suggests it's best they witness each other's continuous development as he begins a demonic weapon production. Beth watches the proceedings, her piercing red eyes glowing with intense focus. A system notification declares production complete, revealing the massive, flaming demonic sword Leviathan to a stunned and bloody Junseo. With a smirk, Junseo tells Yoon Tae-hyun to take the new weapon, declaring, "It's your turn now." Bloodied and overwhelmed, Yoon Tae-hyun stares forward in absolute shock. As the flaming sword hovers, Yoon Tae-hyun thinks he could have handled its mana easily if it were a typical weapon with special abilities. Trusting in Jonseo's craft, however, his hand closes around the fiery hilt of the demonic sword. A massive torrent of golden red energy erupts from the sword, violently engulfing Yoon Tae-hyun. Jae-hee gives a confident wink, his eyes glowing with power. Beth analyzes the new weapon, noting its polluted mana and flame attribute, but seems to dismiss its ultimate potential. Jae-hee smirks, his eyes now glowing a menacing red. "Unfortunately for you," Beth sneers, her hands glowing as she prepares to unleash her blood magic. She floods the chamber with crimson power, activating her bloodbath territory. Caught in the tide, Jae-hee realizes with dread that he's trapped in a wide area absorption and shutout skill. Beth smirks, acknowledging that while her absorption power isn't at its peak, the skill is still incredibly versatile. A woman with long dark hair is caught in the crimson energy as a voice explains the skill slowly paralyzes mana and metabolism. "Huff! Huff. Jae-hee gasps in agony as the voice details how the attack will melt his body down to the bone. From her perch, Beth coldly muses that, with time, the pain of his dissolution won't be so bad. Unfazed by the attack, a bloodied Yoon Tae-hyun glares forward, wreathed in his own roaring flames. He stands firm within the crimson territory, gripping the hilt of the blazing demonic sword Leviathan. Beth watches in surprise, wondering how he's moving so perfectly, but quickly realizes he's not actually fine at all. She deduces that it's the sword's ability, not his own will, controlling his body, making him even stronger than before. Well, that's fine, Beth decides with a cruel smile, looking forward to the fun of destroying a new kind of doll. Her heel steps into the pool of blood, sinking into the spreading crimson territory. Yoon Tae-hyun leaps into a fiery downward slash, while Beth gathers dark magic from below to meet his charge. A small, bat-winged doll appears before Beth, generating a shield of dark, protective energy. Beth calmly extends her hand, commanding the defensive magic to intercept the blow. The flaming sword collides with the demonic shield, erupting in a massive clash of power. Yoon Tae-hyun grips the hilt, pouring an even greater torrent of raw fire into his attack. The impact creates a cataclysmic inferno, engulfing the entire area in blinding light and fire. Whoa! Beth recoils, shielding her face in genuine shock at the overwhelming force of the attack. As her demonic doll is vaporized, she wonders what kind of power could have caused such utter destruction. A sea of hellfire rages, consuming the entire battlefield in its destructive wake. Huff, huff. Catching his breath, Jae-hee admits, "Sheesh, I'm truly astounded." A massive slash of dark, violent energy cuts clean through the inferno. The dark energy cleaves a path through the flames, striking its target with unstoppable force. The fiery blast slams directly into Beth, forcing her to spit up a spray of blood. Defeated and critically wounded, she falls backward, her eyes now covered by a strange, dark blindfold. The battle, finally over. A weary Junso finds a mysterious, glowing blue box materializing in his hands. Tap. He examines the object, realizing it's a reward in the form of an item. Holding the box, he desperately hopes it's an item that can recover his mana or increase his capacity. The scene flashes to a man in a suit, silhouetted by fire, reaching for the hilt of a blazing sword. A system window appears with an information record for the demonic sword Leviathan, updating its skill to allow for instant materialization. Junseo ponders the term separately search, wondering if the standard for finding demonic weapons is completely random. Huff, huff. Jae-hee stares at his trembling hands, breathless and in shock after the battle. Looking down at the battered Yoon Tae-hyun, Junso tells him to stay put, warning he's in no condition to stand. Junseo explains that after taking so much damage, it's a miracle. Yoon Tae-hyun is even conscious after that massive power output. Looking over the other fallen hunters, he tells Yoon Tae-hyun to rest, relieved that no one's life seems to be at risk. The defeated demoness, Beth, lies still as blood trickles from her mouth down her chest. Junseo gazes at Beth, questioning why the raid was a success if she's still alive, and asking what her connection to this dungeon is. Looking at the fallen forms of her parents, Junseo deduces that although Beth's polluted mana controlled them, they moved on their own to protect her. Beth explains that they had to protect her because she is their precious, sustaining power source. In a flashback, a younger, green-haired Beth explains that she indulged them on a whim. The flashback shows her standing over a massive, defeated white wolf, admitting she did something she normally wouldn't. She remembers saving a terrified family of rats who were about to fall into the water. The younger Beth narrates that if the story had ended there, it would have just been a strange memory. She watches as one of the people she saved bows deeply, thinking that these rats were a bit strange. Back in the present, Beth recalls it was the first time a human had ever invited her to stay with them. She explains that this is how she became trapped, arriving at the family's grand, imposing estate. Inside, the woman of the house smiles as she presents the younger Beth with a glowing blue orb. Beth recounts that she doesn't know the turning point, but soon the family was accompanied by lifeless mannequins. In a horrifying memory, she sees the family's son binding her with energy as she realizes she was now their family, not their guest. She smiles wistfully, admitting that for a short time she was truly happy. Her happiness ended when she discovered why they truly accepted her, as a mannequin is shown bound in glowing blue threads. She recalls being bound herself, screaming in terror as the blue energy threads ensnared her. Beth explains that they trapped her in a child's body and sealed her powers, forcing her to supply mana to protect them. Protect them, Junseo asks. From what? Lying defeated, Beth admits she isn't sure, but asks Oppa if he's bothered to look outside the estate. She reveals that her mom used her power to create the massive wall of fire surrounding them. They did it, she explains, to protect themselves from monsters across the fissure, a revelation that stuns Junseo. Noticing his shock, Beth deduces that his world must have a fissure too, and that's how he arrived here. She explains their worlds are similar. A fissure appeared, humans awakened mana, and doors began to open. From those doors, monstrous beasts like a demonic wolf emerged to terrorize their world. Leaning over her, Junseo urgently asks how her world dealt with the calamity of the gates and how much time has passed. Beth confesses that she never saw the conclusion to the calamity. She explains that after being trapped, she spent a dark time unable to move, while her world and the estate fell into isolated ruin. The lock on her confinement shatters, as she says she only recently regained the ability to move. She regained her movement after that. A system window appeared before her eyes. A hidden quest window appears, ordering her to repel 100 intruders to be released, making Junseo realize she's a player. As Junseo stares in utter disbelief, Beth notes that he seems to have many questions. Sorry, she says, as her hand begins to crack and disintegrate. I don't think I'll be able to answer. Closing her eyes, Beth accepts her fate, thinking that this kind of death isn't so bad either. Junseo watches in alarm, wondering if her body has truly begun to collapse beyond recovery. A system window suddenly notifies Junseo that his item, the demonic shackles of control, can now be used. He gazes intently at the glowing blue box, a new plan forming in his mind. As Beth's face cracks further, her single open eye stares into the void. Wreathed in a powerful blue aura, Junseo thrusts the mysterious box forward. He presses the item to her chest, prompting her to weakly ask, "What did you do?" A system window explains the demonic shackles of control can forcibly imprison a defeated monster in a critical state. As a golden light envelops Beth's body, Junseo admits that while he could save the item, he's personally interested in this outcome. The system reveals that a successful capture will heal the monster, as Beth is consumed by restorative golden flames. A sly smile spreads across Junseo's face, intrigued by the prospect of having a player as a familiar. The system confirms the target as Vampire Elder Elizabeth Bathory and states that a contract will be created upon her imprisonment. Junseo braces himself as a brilliant eruption of golden light explodes from his hands. Junseo lets out a quiet, surprised "ah," a faint blush on his cheeks. He surveys the now quiet hall, admitting he didn't expect her to take such a different, unexpected form. Pop before him, a small blue-black cat with glowing red eyes and a collar lets out a startled cry. Junseo smirks, noting with amusement that his new familiar is a cat, not a bat, and her collar even resized to fit. The cat, Beth, stares at her new paws in utter shock, a panicked expression on her face. In a surge of crackling purple energy, she desperately tries to change her form. Reverting to her white-haired vampire form, she furiously clutches the new collar, demanding how he dares make her his familiar. As she vows she'd rather face humiliation, a powerful energy flares, and Junseo coolly observes she can't even maintain her human form, adding she has no right to refuse. Forced back into her cat form, a defeated Beth begrudgingly accepts her fate, conceding she's in his hands for now. As Junseo picks up the squirming cat, she shouts for him to let go, prompting him to wonder if her ability to speak in this form is a benefit. Holding the cat up, he asks an unrelated question. Was she truly betrayed by her family? Perched on his shoulder, the cat sputters indignantly, but Junseo calmly tells her there's no need to repeat her story. Now sitting on the floor, the cat listens, as Junseo explains that something about her story just wasn't adding up. He turns, asking her if a life of mere survival, like her family chose, was even meaningful. Recalling an image of the mother lying lifelessly, he comments that her family doesn't seem that exquisite. Remembering the son casting a spell, Junseo concludes they were more like dolls running on a preset program than living beings. He asks the cat if she expects him to feel sympathy for them, and she tentatively asks if that isn't the case. Junseo states that he and most humans would never choose to continue living in such a manner. He walks past the still form of the father's mannequin. Turning back with a calculating look, he muses that if the father had moved bodies, he should possess a certain item. The cat watches him, silently wondering about his true nature and his motives. As Junsuo faces the fallen doll, the cat wonders what the point of his commentary is now. Wreathed in a blue aura, Junsuo summons a glowing pink orb, commanding, "Come here!" Kook. The cat is pulled forward against her will, shocked that such a simple order carries absolute compulsion. He explains the item is an essential crystal, used in black magic to store a piece of one's mana and soul. In a flashback, the mother holds a similar orb as the cat realizes her family must have used one to transfer their souls into the dolls. Staring at the glowing pink crystal, the cat nervously asks what he's trying to say. Wah! She leaps back in shock and fear, her fur standing on end as the truth dawns on her. A vision reveals her family at a table, where the father explains he's seen thousands of disastrous futures, all ending the same. He foresees the collision between worlds, a tear in reality, warning that its frequency will increase uncontrollably. The mother adds with despair that even with 5 years, it's too late to prepare for the inevitable. The cat realizes she's witnessing her father's memories and wonders what method they were discussing. In the memory, the desperate father declares that their only hope for survival lies in his research on a different dimension. He explains to the mother that with Beth's help, they can isolate their estate, but the real problems will come after. The vision shows their sunlit estate, with the father's voiceover explaining they must wait until someone from another world finds them. Coke. The father clenches his fist in despair, realizing they face a slow death waiting for potentially thousands of years. He clutches his head, cursing their fate, but then resolves that Beth must not share it. Mother looks up, asking what he means, having accepted that they themselves only have a few years left. With tears in his eyes, the young son pleads, asking if they can't at least save her. The father explains that they only survived because of Beth's actions, and if their own fate is sealed, then at least one member of their family must survive. As the vision shows them standing before a bound and terrified Beth, powerless and bound by glowing blue threads, the younger Beth stares in disbelief, thinking how she had trusted them all. Her family looks down with grim, apologetic faces, thinking in unison that they are truly sorry. The father holds a glowing blue orb, asking if their consciousness will remain after transferring their souls into dolls. As the family holds their own soul orbs, the mother confirms they'll maintain their human minds for a few hundred years. The father grimly accepts that after that they will erode and won't even remember who they were. As the estate is bathed in a hellish red light, he states that while they will become dolls, they have to do it. His voiceover explains their desperate choice, as a monstrous wolf appears, showing that even in isolation, new dangers could arise. As beasts tear through a bloody landscape, he adds that they must be prepared for anything. Junsuo holds the glowing pink essential crystal, presenting Beth with the truth of her family's memories. A system window shows he's consumed 50 corrupted mana to temporarily free his familiar, Elizabeth Bathory's abilities. Returned to her vampire form, Beth collapses in tears, asking why her family never told her the truth of their sacrifice. Junsuo tells her to get up because she doesn't have much time, leaving a confused Beth to look up at him. He explains that 50 corrupted mana only granted her 3 minutes, and he didn't pay that price for her to cry. As tears stream down her face, Beth hears Junsuo say that it's her role to bring this story to a conclusion. He reminds her that her family endured their fate as dolls for ages, all to protect her. Recalling her brother's sacrifice, he tells Beth she must be the one to finally help them rest. I can't, she cries out in anguish. How could I do something like that? Junsuo angrily argues that her family could have simply lived out their last moments happily, as their fate was sealed. Instead, he proclaims, they chose an endless imprisonment for her sake, even though her future was uncertain. Looking at her with intensity, he declares that this isn't about him or her. It's the least she can do for their devotion. As she trembles, he coldly states that granting them peace is her minimum obligation. Resolved, Beth rises to her full height, towering over Junsuo as he holds the glowing crystal. With tears still falling, her expression hardens with determination, her red eye blazing. Her resolve is strengthened by the memory of her family's pained, doll-like faces. She flashes back to a happier time, when her family, father, mother, brother, and herself laughed together. Her face contorts in a silent, furious scream, ready to fulfill her duty. As an additional goal-achieved window appears, Beth strides forward, her purpose now clear. Looking down with a single tear, she accepts the painful task ahead. The scene shifts back to Junsuo's world, where a swirling blue portal stands in a clearing surrounded by emergency personnel. An exhausted Junseo is helped to his feet by a fellow hunter, both looking relieved to be out. Muscular man with purple hair, heavily bandaged and bleeding from his shoulder, winces in pain as he's treated. Who? Junseo exhales, commenting that his time in the dungeon felt longer than he'd expected. His cat familiar Beth appears and asks for his thoughts, concluding that his world is weak and can't compare to hers. As they walk through the aftermath, Junseo states that his obligation is to do his best and live on, no matter the place. The scene cuts to a modern home at night. A blue-haired woman stands inside, annoyed by her day, and remarking that it's why she can't give up drinking. Her eyes narrow with suspicion as she glances down from an upper level. Spotting a dark silhouette on the floor below, she wonders what a rat is doing in her house. She points, accusingly asking if the intruder is there to ruin things for her. A purple-haired man with sharp teeth smirks up at her, calling her description of him as a rat too harsh. Now seated at her bar with a glass of wine, he claims he was just waiting for his colleague, exhausted from longing. Surrounded by a menacing aura, the blue-haired woman demands he stop the act and explain himself, warning the wine costs more than his life. The purple-haired man calls her mean and admits he's not there for personal reasons, revealing he heard she went to the unconfirmed dungeon. He smirks, clarifying that person is interested in such dungeons, and he came to hear how it went. He swirls his wine, noting with a thoughtful hum that she didn't see everything. He taunts the tall and proud queen for pathetically blacking out during the raid, earning an angry shut up from her. Flustered, she insists that even though she was unconscious, she confirmed the results of the raid. She recounts how Yuan Taiheon finished the boss with only 2 swings of a sword given by the supporter, marveling at the unprecedented power. The purple-haired man clenches his fist on the counter, intrigued by this new information. A predatory grin spreads across his face as he declares that an S-rank, like Yuan Taiheon, is definitely worth hunting. He then shifts focus, suggesting their attention should be on the supporter, which visibly startles the blue-haired woman. The woman ponders this, recalling she thought the supporter was just a D-rank weaponsmith, but now realizes the sword's immense durability. The purple-haired man concedes that knowing how to make a sturdy sword would be quite useful. He smirks, dismissing the weapon as a mere tool that is useless without someone to wield it. Turning his back, he lectures that only the wielder's ability and the purity of the fight matter, calling all else impure. The blue-haired woman warns him that if he hunts Yuan Taiheon, that impurity, the supporter, might be the very thing that causes him to lose. The purple-haired man waves her off, his curiosity now piqued by the D-rank supporter the queen is so obsessed with. He boasts with a confident smile that by the time he's done, he may have killed both Yuan Taiheon and the supporter. Junseo lies in bed, exhausted and looking up at the ceiling. He realizes that despite sleeping for days, he hasn't recovered, and suspects Beth's absorption skill is the cause. He calls out into his empty room, asking if there's any way to get rid of the skill's side effects. Looking around in confusion, he sits up and wonders where his familiar has gone. Looking out his apartment window, he lets out a resigned sigh. He reassures himself that it's fine, as he can forcibly summon her and assumes she's just exploring this new world. Hiss. Just as he hopes she isn't doing anything weird, Beth, in her cat form, arches her back at a pink-haired girl trying to pet her. Back in the apartment, a system window identifies a wooden chest on his table as a mischievous treasure chest. Junseo stares at the chest in front of him, surprised to actually see one in real life. He identifies the item as a well-known, mischievous treasure chest, which gives players random rewards. He muses that although the chest reward is random, it's not entirely unpredictable. The chest is limited to bestowing an item that the owner needs, though his thought trails off. He recalls an example, a powerful sword that can only be used for attacking, not for blocking. Another example is a perfect shield that absorbs any impact but randomly reflects it onto someone else. He concludes that the chest's items are wicked because, despite their major weaknesses, people still try to use them, often with bloody results. Thinking about his depleted mana bar, he knows the one item he needs right now is something to recover or increase his mana. As he reaches for the chest, he wonders what the important thing to consider is. He realizes the most important question is what kind of weakness the mana-restoring item will have. A brilliant blue light erupts from his apartment window as he opens the chest. The light subsides, leaving a calm glow emanating from his window against the night sky. A silver ring, designed with sharp teeth like a monster's maw, materializes in his hand. Junseo looks aghast, as a system window explains the ring's mana drain only works on targets who have a high degree of favorability for him. Just then, his cat familiar Beth walks into the room with a questioning look. Clutching his head in frustration, Junseo laments that while mana drain is an overpowered ability, its reliance on favorability makes it useless for him. Beth looks at him, asking why he seems so angry. Licking her paw, she informs him that he has a guest, referring to the idiot from before. Junseo looks up, confused, and wondering who she could possibly be talking about. Outside, the purple-haired man from the raid steps out of a sleek, silver limousine. Straightening his jacket, the purple-haired man mutters that someone acts generous but is truly a bad bastard. He stands on the sidewalk, looking up with intent at the apartment building. He recalls his decision, thinking that while it's improper for him to scout a supporter personally, this one is valuable enough to warrant it. Remembering being trapped in a blue barrier during the raid, he notes that he could still feel the battle's final moments. He flashes back to seeing Shin Janseo give Yeon Taehan the flaming sword inside the dungeon. He clenches his teeth, remembering that the energy from the sword was powerful enough to momentarily break his barrier. Convinced Junseo has at least A-rank potential, he concludes that Yoon Tae-shin's decision to hire him was a smart one. The purple-haired man smirks, planning to recruit Junseo regardless of his loyalties, then asks how Junseo knew where he lived. Junseo approaches from his building, retorting that there's no way the man could have found his address legally. Holding up a business card, the man says most people would be impressed to be sought out by the best guild and questions Junseo's nonchalance. He extends his hand, expecting Junseo to be impressed enough to come meet him. Brushing past the stunned man, Junseo states he wasn't coming to meet him, but to renew his helper certificate. As Junseo walks away, the man shouts an offer after him. Triple! The purple-haired man points aggressively, promising to triple Yoon Tae-hyun's offer, and acknowledging that he must look weak after the dungeon incident. He insists he treats those with ability properly, and promises Junseo the best treatment he'll find anywhere. Junseo turns back with a slight smile, commenting that he's surprised the man has some self-awareness. He coldly gives the same response he gave to Yoon Tae-hyun. There's nothing you can give me, leaving the man shocked. The purple-haired man grits his teeth, cursing his luck and muttering that Kang Yuran gave him the same answer yesterday. In a flashback, a woman with long black hair tells him it's fine, as he fumes, asking if she thinks he, Kim Yi-yuk, and the Shinhwa Guild are idiots. Trembling with fury, Kim Yi-yuk clenches his fist, repeating Junseo's rejection and vowing to wait and see. As Junseo walks off, Kim Yi-yuk swears he'll make both him and Kang Yuran come begging to work for him. The scene shifts, showing a young man with light brown hair and a woman with short black hair looking up at a modern high-rise building. A man with dark brown hair walks down the street, musing that the Hunter Association is inconveniently located for public transit. Thump! He bumps into a mysterious hooded figure on the sidewalk. The hooded figure apologizes, and the brown-haired man glances back with a puzzled look. A slight, knowing smirk appears on the hooded figure's face as he turns away. The brown-haired man walks on, thinking he still hasn't recovered from his damage, and noting how the person was walking straight at him. He suddenly spins around with a jolt of recognition, wondering if he just saw who he thinks he saw. Looking down the street, he sees the mysterious figure walking away with two others. A look of utter shock crosses his face as he realizes Do Jin-hyung is alive. The hooded man, who is actually a different person, is seen walking away from the encounter. The hooded man, now with his face partially visible, thinks of his true target, Shin Junseo. The scene transitions, showing a bright modern cityscape. A massive blue gate portal hums in the middle of a street, cordoned off by guards and military trucks. A blond man hoisting a large hammer shouts for his party to enter the gate if they're ready. An archer warns the group that C-rank gates are deadly and that one can never be too careful. A nervous pink-haired woman with glasses confides in Junseo that it's her first C-rank gate, to which he thoughtfully responds. Junseo reassures her that their tank is a veteran, so they'll be fine, though he admits it's not his place as a helper to say so. As Junseo and the woman walk towards the gate, the hooded figure from before watches, noting Junseo's experienced demeanor. The hooded man's eyes glow red as he focuses intently on his target, Shin Junso. In a different scene, a woman with purple hair asks Junseo if he has a girlfriend, while a data readout details his D-rank support status. The brother from the beginning narrates a flashback, identifying a group of hunters as his Hyung, Moon Do-yoon's guild. In the flashback, A friend asks Moon Do-yoon's brother why his guild is bidding on a D-rank gate when they should aim higher. The brother explains that the D-rank gate is large and resource-rich, offering huge profits for little manpower. His friend scoffs at how large guilds cheaply rake in riches from such dungeons. Do-yoon's brother agrees, but explains that for a new guild like his, even a fraction of the profit is significant. He dreams of using the profits to reinforce his guild members' equipment and give them exclusive training. He smiles brightly, full of hope for his guild's future. Back in the present, Do-yoon's brother is on the phone with someone named Yoon Do-jin, reacting to unbelievable news from the association. He insists to Yoon Do-jin that there's no way his brother would have been killed in such a dungeon. The man on the phone reveals the post-investigation showed his brother entered an unconfirmed dungeon of very high danger. Stunned by the news, the brother realizes his Hyung's death was no simple accident. He remembers his brother, Moon Do-yoon, proudly stating he bid for the gate through an official auction, insisting he would never lie. The official on the phone asks if his brother mentioned anything, prompting the brother to wonder who could have manipulated the bidding. Denying his brother said anything, he concludes that something beyond common sense must have occurred. The official informs him the corpse will be transferred in 2 days, adding hesitantly that it was fortunate they found any remains. Learning they could collect the bodies because there was one survivor, the brother asks in disbelief. A survivor? The official confirms it, but knows no specifics, leaving the brother to walk away as he processes the shocking news. Back at the raid, a team composed of Junsa, a pink-haired woman, and a blonde man prepares to enter the gate. The blonde tank smiles confidently, aiming to clear the dungeon without any serious injuries. Junseo and a white-haired woman step forward, walking into the shimmering blue portal. Moon Do-yoon's brother confronts the hooded man, questioning how a rookie D-rank supporter survived when all the veterans, including his B-rank Hyung, died. His eyes narrow with suspicion as he vows to find the truth if that supporter is connected to his brother's death. At the gate's cordon, an official in a suit and sunglasses looks on with a guard. The official stops Kim Ye-hyuk, telling him only participants may pass, to which Ye-hyuk offers a quick apology. Grinning with sharp teeth, Kim Ye-hyuk claims he's part of the party but got the time wrong, presenting his permit. As the official checks the permit, Ye-hyuk jokes about who would show up so geared up if they weren't involved. With his permit confirmed, Kim Ye-hyuk breathes a sigh of relief. The confused official asks, "Pardon?" and Ye-hyuk clarifies that he's relieved he can enter. He leans in with a sinister smile, adding that if he couldn't enter, the official would have died. Walking toward the portal, Kim Ye-hyuk recalls the name of his target, wondering if the praise name was Moon Do-jin. He grins predatorily, ready to see the abilities of his hero candidate. A massive armored monster, the beheaded Duke, lies defeated on the dungeon floor. The blonde man with the hammer stares in disbelief, shocked that their party managed to defeat such a powerful monster. Junseo, concealed by his hood, feels that something is wrong, concluding there's no way this was merely a C-rank dungeon. He internally assesses the monster as a high-level B-rank, realizing how dangerous it would have been if he had continued to hide his full abilities. The blonde tank turns to Junseo, calling him dealer, and expressing his gratitude and surprise at having such a talented person with them. Elsewhere, the pink-haired woman tends to an injured party member while another man admits he only contributed to about half the fight. Thump. Suddenly, the defeated beheaded Duke begins to move again, its metallic hands opening a book. The hooded man with brown hair curses his situation, wishing he had his usual equipment for this unexpected fight. Jeonseo makes an offer. He can create a pair of weapons if the man agrees to forget about his abilities after leaving the dungeon. The brown-haired man is stunned by the new daggers, noting their strength, cutting power, and weight are a class above his normal weapons. He clenches the hilt, wondering how a supposed D-rank supporter could instantly materialize such a powerful item. Turning to face Junseo, the brown-haired man walks toward him and demands to know who he really is. Jeonseo calmly looks back, coolly asking when they ever formally introduced themselves. The hooded man concedes that Junseo is right. They've never exchanged names. He changes tactics, asking if Junseo knows the name Moon Do-yoon. Junseo is visibly shocked as the man reveals Moon Do-yoon is his older brother. The guildmaster of the Dawon Guild, Junseo, belonged to a year ago. The brown-haired man's expression hardens as he demands Junseo tell him everything that happened to his Hyung and whether he was involved. He lunges forward in a sudden blur of motion. Clang! A powerful impact sends out a flash of red energy as he collides with an unseen attacker. Reeling from the blow, the brown-haired man looks around in confusion, wondering if another monster has appeared. A new enemy emerges, a smirking, blue-haired man with a massive sword, who calls the situation an unexpected development. As the bloody corpse of Moon Dojin lies behind him, the blue-haired man muses that even his rising star couldn't have handled this. Looking at another blood-soaked body on the floor, he adds that he didn't think anyone else could have deflected his attack. A glowing blue portal materializes, and the blue-haired man expresses his surprise that one more person is still alive. The brown-haired man struggles against a powerful, unseen force, acknowledging his mysterious opponent is incredibly strong. The blue-haired man grins menacingly, telling him there's no need to be scared if he just relaxes. Confused, Junseo raises his hand, and a translucent blue barrier shimmers into existence before him. The blue-haired man's smirk widens as he realizes the D-rank supporter he heard about was Junseo, whom he calls an impurity. Junseo stares back, silently questioning the strange insult. Wielding his new daggers, the brown-haired man is shocked that this new enemy knows Shin Junseo. Kim Yi-yuk, the purple-haired man, appears with a savage grin, wielding a demonic weapon and declaring this hunt will now be more fun. The brown-haired man dashes forward, preparing to strike with his dual daggers. As he clashes with an enemy, he realizes the force is incredible, and knows he can only defend a few more times before being overwhelmed. Kim Yi-yuk swings his massive dark blade in a vicious red arc. A new hooded figure with red hair intercepts the attack, resolving to find a gap in his opponent's assault. The red-haired man thinks he must avoid and dodge at all costs to find an opening. The blue-haired man watches the fight from afar, cursing that the other bastard is completely useless. His eyes widen in utter shock at a sudden turn of events. Kim Yi-yuk's powerful weapon is suddenly bound by crackling lines of purple energy. The energy whips around the blade as a pink-haired woman appears, having restrained the weapon, leaving the blue-haired man stunned. A split screen shows the determined eyes of Junseo and the glowing red eyes of the pink-haired woman. Their faces are shown side by side as a voice declares the fight is now 3 against 1. Junseo coughs up blood, revealing that in exchange for taking critical damage, he was able to summon an ally for a brief moment. The blue-haired man, now ensnared in the glowing purple energy, can only stammer, "You!" The glowing energy restraints tighten around him. The pink-haired woman stares coolly, stating the time he was bound was more than enough to end the fight. The blue-haired man cries out, calling her a damned bitch, as a red energy attack slams into him. The pink-haired woman smirks as a system window announces her skill, Fog. Gritting his teeth, the blue-haired man growls that purely physical attacks are not frightening to him. Junseo's summon, a bloodied man with brown hair, notes that while the blue-haired man is a similar type to him, there is a clear difference in their levels and weaponry. A sharp-toothed, elf-eared woman with red eyes smiles, cryptically remarking that this seems like goodbye. As the blue-haired man watches, Moon Do-yoon's brother leaps into the air, his dual daggers glowing with blue energy. Roaring, the blue-haired man swings his massive blade in a vicious red arc. Do-yoon's brother descends rapidly, blocking the massive sword with his crossed daggers. Clang! The two weapons collide in a powerful impact of red and blue energy. Watching from a swirl of purple mist, the elf-eared woman smirks, commenting that his performance wasn't bad. The bloodied blue-haired man grits his teeth, admitting that the end was a bit sloppy. Do-yoon's brother knows there's a huge skill gap, but sees an opportunity now that his opponent is injured. Junseo demands his opponent surrender, warning him that his sins mean the outcome will be the same either way. The blue-haired man's face contorts in panic and disbelief. Thud! His heavy sword drops to the ground, a clear act of surrender. Though a narration box refers to him as Dojin, Junseo instantly realizes his opponent has a different intention. The blue-haired man clutches his wounded arm, his sword lying at his feet. With a surge of dark purple energy, he plunges his armored gauntlet into his own chest. Wiping blood from his mouth, Junseo realizes with alarm that his foe is using corrupted mana. The corrupted mana erupts from his chest in a violent, crackling burst. Wreathed in a sinister purple aura, the blue-haired man glares at Do-yoon's brother, simply saying, "You!" Promising to see them later, he unleashes a massive teleportation circle that engulfs him in light. Do-yoon's brother recognizes the teleportation magic and curses in frustration as his enemy vanishes. Junseo watches the fading energy, thinking it's a relief the enemy used an escape item. He grimly considers that if the item had been for attack or a debuff, he wouldn't be standing in one piece. Do-yoon's brother turns to Shin Jonseo, who finally agrees to tell him everything. Jonseo looks him in the eye, affirming he has the right to hear what happened a year ago to the Daewon Guild and his older brother. The scene shifts to outside the dungeon gate, where emergency vehicles and personnel block off the area. Paramedics are seen carrying a body on a stretcher away from the gate. Standing outside, Do-yoon's brother feels sick, lamenting that they must lie and say monsters killed their party, not that crazy bastard. Junso replies that they have no other choice, as security records show they were supposed to have 7 members. Do-yoon's brother listens in stunned silence, unable to believe it. Junso explains their enemy used a forged certificate that was good enough to fool the security personnel. He recalls a happier time a year ago with his guild, explaining this is just like when an unconfirmed dungeon was falsely sold as certified. Looking at mock-ups of an access pass and auction confirmation, he notes the operation is too big for a small group, as the association would crush them. The brown-haired man's expression hardens as he states that he understands they are facing a very powerful organization. Junso explains they lied to the victims' families, including him, because some may not have been able to accept the truth. Do-yoon's brother concludes that officially reporting the incident could endanger more people, and he grimly accepts the situation. He confronts Junso directly, pointing out that his supposed D-rank maker status makes no sense, and asking why he's hiding his power. Junso explains that until a year ago, his ability was pathetically weak, barely allowing him to create 1 or 2 swords. He reveals that on the verge of death in that unconfirmed dungeon, he awakened a new ability, which is how he became the sole survivor. Do-yoon's brother admits the story is unbelievable, and that he wouldn't believe it either if their positions were reversed. Junso promises that once the culprits are caught, he plans to reveal the entire truth to the world and the victims' families. Do-yoon's brother bows deeply in apology, vowing to find those responsible for his Hyung's death as quickly as possible. Junso stops him, saying it isn't only his problem and that there is no other answer he can accept, except that Junso is not the culprit. Looking out at the city's sunset, Do-yoon's brother says he is no different from Shin Junso now. He watches the ambulance drive away, lamenting that he must hide the truth from those who deserve to know, just as Junso did. Standing across the street from each other, he vows to never stop until he makes his Hyung's killers pay, no matter what it takes. As Do-yoon's brother puts his fate in his hands, Shin Junso looks on with a steady, determined gaze. Do-yoon's brother states that from this moment forward, they can only rely on each other. The scene shifts to an old, isolated warehouse as dusk settles. Inside the dark warehouse, a purple teleportation circle flares to life. Kim Yi-hyuk materializes from the light of the teleportation spell. He immediately collapses to his knees, clutching his chest and growling, "Motherfuckers!" The blue-haired man, now with pointed ears and fangs, seethes with rage, vowing to kill his enemies. A new, white-haired woman with purple eyes appears in the warehouse, mocking the blue-haired man's pathetic threats after he was defeated and fled. She coldly tells him it would have been better if he had returned dead or in a hopeless state. When he reacts in shock, she explains that if he had, she could have used him as a sacrifice. She dismissively tells him to stop acting pathetic, adding that a certain person still has high expectations for him, though she doesn't know why. The blue-haired man flinches in surprise at her words. A grotesque, single-eyed pink creature with a fanged mouth materializes in a swirl of purple energy, horrifying the blue-haired man. With a serene smile, the white-haired woman offers him the creature, telling him to eat it so it can become his new arm. The blue-haired man recoils, refusing to eat the unknown thing, while she questions his distrust. Smirking, she reminds him that their relationship isn't built on trust and that he's in no position to be picky. The woman taunts the blue-haired man, questioning if he can truly overcome the loss of an arm with effort alone. With a look of grim resolve, the blue-haired man holds the chittering pink creature in his gauntleted hand. The woman challenges him, telling him he can do whatever he wants to her later, if he is able to. A split screen shows him clenching his fist with determination as his eyes glow with a fierce purple light. As his arm is enveloped by a shadowy mass, the woman remarks that the two of them match better than she expected. He examines his new, glowing purple hand, as the woman explains this is its first form and that it will automatically adapt over time. She gives him a final, unsettling warning, stating the creature is like her child and he should let her know if he dislikes it. Gritting his teeth with burning hatred, the blue-haired man vows to kill them all. He lists his targets for revenge: the woman, Moon Dojin, and the one who took his arm. His rage culminates as he names his final target, Shin Junso. The scene shifts to a large, modern lobby, bustling with men in dark suits. At an airport, a man and woman speculate that the crowd of reporters must be for a celebrity, but he clarifies it's for a hunter. The woman recognizes the name of the Hyunmu Guild as one of South Korea's top 3 and questions why they are arriving through an airport. The man explains that he read they received a special invitation from the UK for a very dangerous gate. A red-haired female reporter excitedly announces into her microphone that they're here. A glamorous blonde woman, identified as Woo Hien, the Hyunmu Guildmaster, strides confidently through the terminal. Hyen's red-brown-haired assistant holds back the press, stating they will not be taking interviews and will issue an official statement later. In a car driving away, someone congratulates the Guildmaster on a job well done. The assistant reviews Woo Hyen's schedule, noting a group interview with the Sanha Guild in 2 days. The assistant's next update catches Hyen's attention, a sighting of the executor 2 days ago. Hyen asks where the sighting occurred, and her assistant replies it was at a rank error dungeon in Bupyeong. The assistant continues, stating that witness testimony matches the executor's description to someone who arrived at the dungeon late. While displaying Shin Junseo's profile on a tablet, she notes the survivors were a B-ranked assassin and a D-ranked supporter, a fact that clearly surprises and intrigues Guildmaster Hyen. The assistant muses on how a D-rank support could have survived an encounter with the executor, wondering if the B-rank assassin was just that good. She concludes her report by stating the 2 survivors testified that the deaths of their party members were accidents that occurred during the hunt. Hien calmly considers the situation, speculating that the survivors might be accomplices or were threatened into silence. Elsewhere, Shin Junseo researches on his laptop, thinking he couldn't find the blue-haired man's information in the Hunter Association's records for greatsword users. He theorizes that the man might use a different appearance in public, picturing his blue-haired enemy. Junseo concludes with certainty that his foe is connected to the annihilation incidents at unconfirmed and rank error dungeons. His thoughts continue, delving deeper into the enemy's pattern. He considers the estate incident, realizing it could have wiped out all the powerful hunters present, including Yeon Tae-hyun. He reflects on the immense potential of those who were targeted, acknowledging that their deaths would have been a great loss to the world's future. Tap. Placing an item on his desk, Junseo realizes the enemy's operations suggest a terrifying possibility: assassinations outside of dungeons. He sits back in his chair, lost in thought, the gravity of the situation sinking in. His phone rings, and upon answering, an unfamiliar voice asks if they've reached Shin Junseo. The scene transitions to a tall skyscraper against a starry night sky. Inside, a modern and empty high-end bar awaits. A woman with dark teal hair sits at the bar, and a voice from off-screen addresses her as Kang Yoren, SSI. Kang Yoren turns, critiquing the caller's messy outfit and wondering if she was expecting too much. Entering the high-end bar, Shin Junseo reflects that he's never been to such a place and is growing more distrustful of society. He wonders how they found him, certain his personal information wasn't on the Public Hunter Association database. Kang Yuran correctly guesses that the idiot Kim Yi-hyuk must have come looking for him. She continues, describing how a man with reddish-purple hair likely approached him with a greasy smile and misplaced confidence. Tap, tap. Tapping the counter, Kang Yoren leans in and states she invited him out of personal interest. Junseo rejects her offer for a casual drink, insisting he'll state his business plainly if she has none. Kang Yoren admits she's curious, having fainted before she could see the end of the last dungeon fight. Recalling the winged, vampire-like monster, she asks what method he used to defeat it, as even Yoon Tae-hyun seemed hopeless. Junseo deflects, claiming that as a mere D-rank supporter, he couldn't have possibly known what happened while she was unconscious. From behind the bar, a voice dismisses his answer as fine and asks what he wanted to say to her. The two stand apart in the spacious, modern bar, a silent tension between them. Leaning on her hand, Kang Yoren smirks, asking if he's worried that she's the next target for that crazy bastard. Junseo lays out his theory. Her entering the rank error dungeon meant she was already a target, and as an unaffiliated hunter, she's especially vulnerable. Kang Yoren finds his logic plausible, but slyly asks if he isn't forgetting something important. With a sharp tap of her heel, she crosses her legs and points out that she's not the only one at risk. She reminds him that there is another unaffiliated D-ranked supporter who is much weaker than she is, him. Jonseo's expression darkens as he turns her logic back on her, asking if that means he's the one in the most danger. With a confident smile, Kang Yoran offers to protect him. Junseo turns to leave, announcing that he's said all he needed to say. He delivers a final, grave warning, telling her to take his words seriously because her life is on the line. Junseo walks away, leaving Kang Yoran watching him with her arms crossed. As he departs, she answers her phone with a thoughtful, She confirms to the caller that Junseo just left and urges them to do their best, calling it a debt-ridden opportunity. Pook. She ends the call, revealing the contact name as Rat Bastard. Kang Yoran gives a satisfied, predatory smile while looking at her phone. Now, outside on a dark street, Junseo looks startled, wondering if it's strange to say, "Long time no see." An unseen man steps into view, acknowledging Junseo's guts for traveling alone at night after the recent incident. The blue-haired man, Kim Yakakik, appears with a condescending smile, questioning if Junseo is brave or just idiotic. As a massive purple dome envelops the city, Kim Ye-yuk declares that escape is useless because Junseo is already trapped. He grudgingly admits the bitch who set up the barrier, the white-haired woman, is talented, ensuring no one outside will know what happens. Kim Ye-hook seems surprised by the barrier's complexity, realizing it not only blocks entry, but creates a virtual space imitating reality. Junseo observes the strangely silent street, relieved that Ye-hook's group didn't actually kill the residents as he'd worried. Junseo tells Ye-hook he's relieved his organization has some discernment, but his words are cut off by Ye-hook's angry retort. With a knowing smirk, Junseo reveals he expected this ambush, anticipating they would target him tonight. Recalling his conversation with Kang Yoran, he declares himself the perfect target for them. Enraged by his confidence, Kim Ye-hyuk draws his glowing red greatsword, furious that a mere supporter dares to face him alone. Seething, Kim Ye-hyuk attacks, screaming at Junseo for acting so easygoing in the face of death. With a brilliant flash of blue energy, an unseen force intercepts the attack. Kim Ye-hyuk stares in shock as a giant, glowing blue sword summoned by Junseo effortlessly blocks his strike. Ye-hyuk recoils, realizing the blow was far stronger than before and would have killed most fighters instantly. Blue energy swirls around Junseo's hand as he thinks to himself that it's been a year since he's been able to do this. Standing before a massive ice golem and an arsenal of floating swords, he relishes the chance to finally fight an enemy one-on-one without witnesses. Kim Ye-hyuk scoffs. A supporter that can't do anything on his own? Well, you're not 100% wrong. With a calm expression and a skill grid world notification below, Junseo readies himself for the fight.